today because we have a packed agenda. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the January 22nd SANDAG board meeting, directors meeting, and we're going to cover a lot of stuff today. So we'll jump right in and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So I invite you to join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we'll get started with our public and member comments. So if you would like to make a comment as a board member, raise your hand either at the bottom or in the screen so I can call on you, and press *9 if you are on the phone. So first we'll go to the public speakers. Francesca, do we have any public comments on non-agenda items?
No, Chair, we don't have any hands raised.
Okay, I see Gustavo has his hand raised, so go ahead, Gustavo.
Thank you, Chair Blakespeare. I know we have a packed agenda, but there are 4 quick announcements that I would like to make that I think are of interest to the board members. The first one is that next week, on January 25th, we will start construction on a project in State Route 78 in the city of Escondido between North Broadway and Flora Vista Street. This $19 million project will be fixing the pavement of 78 through Escondido. We'll also add 67 ADA ramps, a shared bike lane, and some high visibility striping. That project is supposed to take about 6 months, so will take us all the way into the fall. Most of the construction will be happening at night, so we ask all the motorists that will be driving through that area to be kind to our construction workers and also watch out for their safety. The second announcement has to do with State Route 67. And on January 14th, we filed the notice of preparation for the environmental document for a project that will look at improvements on 67 between Mapleview Street and Highland Valley Dye Road. Also next week, on January 27th at 5:30 p.m., we will be hosting a virtual scoping meeting where we will be discussing the alternatives being considered for the project. We will also be able to receive comments on this environmental document through February 19th, which is the last date that the notice of preparation runs until. The third comment that I wanted to make is that on February 11th, Caltrans and Baja California Secretaría de Infraestructura y Desarrollo Urbano y Reordenación Territorial will adopt the 2021 Border Master Plan. This is an update of our old Border Master Plan that has been in the works for the last few months and will continue to guide our transportation improvements along the border region. And we're happy to come back to the board with a presentation regarding that if the board so desires. And last but not least, something to watch out for in this spring is that CALSTA, the California State Transportation Agency, has been leading a climate action plan for transportation infrastructure. It will be released this spring for public review. So as the date gets closer, we will come back to the board with more details. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I see Mayor Dedina's hand raised.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I just wanted to, 2 weeks ago, we had an update on a discussion of COVID and the vaccine rollout. Thank you, Chair Blakespeare, for making that happen. But since then, I think Operation Warp Speed at the county has gone just really well. And I know that I was talking to my colleagues, Mary Salas and Chula Vista, Alejandro Sotelo Solis, and Richard Bailey this morning. And we have centers now open in Imperial Beach, Coronado, Chula Vista, and newly in National City. So actually newly in Chula Vista as well. So I just want to thank the County of San Diego. I know Supervisor Tara Lawson's here. Thank you so much. We appreciate the partnership with the county, but also this regional effort. And we're gonna have to do a lot more, but we're moving there. And so just great to see a meeting turn into actually actions and on the ground that help save people's lives. So really, really stoked on that and appreciative, and look forward to continuing to work with all of you, especially the county and all healthcare providers and anyone who wants to be part of the team to continue this massive mobilization. And I think we called it, President Biden called warlike setting, whatever he's calling it, we're going to do it in San Diego. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's good progress. Francesca, do we have any public comments?
Yes, we do have one public speaker now, Lucero Chavez. If you could unmute yourself, you can go ahead and speak.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Wonderful. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Lucero Chavez. I am the Policy Associate for the Parent Institute for Quality Education, or PIQUE. PIQUE is a national organization founded in San Diego, providing evidence-based programming that empowers parents to actively participate in their children's education and strengthen parent-school collaboration. We are also part of Equitable Distance Learning Task Force here in San Diego. Since the start of COVID, PIQUE has continued its work to not only empower parents, but also support families in navigating the challenges of distance learning, digital literacy, and connectivity. We find that while many of our families now have the necessary devices to access the internet for work, school, or telehealth, their ability to connect to affordable quality broadband remains an issue. Last fall, PIQUE conducted a community needs assessment by surveying the parents we serve across California. And while the majority of the parents shared that their students have appropriate equipment for online learning, on average, 17% shared that they still lack internet at home. As you go through item 16, we urge you to keep our families in mind as you work to close the digital divide in San Diego, and also hope you will consider PIQUE as a resource for understanding the need for reliable broadband and connectivity here in our communities. Thank you for your time.
Does that conclude public speakers?
Thank you. We do have one additional hand. Erin Hodgbaum. I just want to make sure, are your comments about something not related to an agenda item, or are you speaking on a particular item?
I believe I'm speaking on agenda item 17.
Thank you. We'll call for comments on that item at that time.
Okay, thank you.
I believe that's everyone, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So now I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome a few more new members of our board. And we have 3 of them today. 2 have served on this board before, and 1 has been a frequent commenter to the board. So I'll recognize Mayor Lisa Huebner from Solana Beach, if you'd like to say a couple words.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Blakespear. Well, it wasn't planned this way. It looks like I took a 4-year hiatus after 10 years on the board, and now I'm back. And I'm really happy to be back and working with all of you. Especially, it looks like 2021 is going to be a pivotal year for SANDAG and for the region. We've got the regional transportation plan, including fleshing out all the details of the 5 big moves, which I'm really looking forward to. So those policy discussions should be interesting. And I'm also looking forward to the opening of the Mid-Coast Trolley later this year, a project I wholeheartedly supported back in the day. So I'm happy to see you all, both familiar faces and new faces, and I'm happy to be working with all of you again. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And now I'd like to recognize Mayor Matt Hall from Carlsbad.
Good to be back. Thanks. Look forward to working here.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, Councilmember Jack Shu from La Mesa.
Good morning, SANDAG board members. This is a very surreal moment for me, having been visiting SANDAG board meetings for many years and speaking to many of you from the other side of the podium. And today, for the first time, I get to be on your side. And I must say that it is an odd feeling to be with all of you and hopefully working with all of you. If I can say one quick word, we've been hearing a lot about the 5 big moves and how SANDAG and Hassan is leading us with the 5 big moves. But I want to make one note. Today, this year, we're finding some main changes. One big move at SANDAG as we steer to a new direction that I think will help our region, our economy, our workers, our people throughout San Diego. So I really am honored and hope I can help SANDAG make this big move towards a new direction. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And again, welcome to our new board members. We have had 25 board members that have rotated off of this board and a number of new faces. So it's a really exciting time here at SANDAG. I'd like to now take a moment to recognize a SANDAG staff member. Her name is Dawn Vatisse, and she is our SANDAG Strategic Capital Funding Program Manager. And what has happened under her extraordinary leadership is that SANDAG was able to save the San Diego region more than $123 million by refinancing a loan to fund the Mid-Coast Trolley. So early last year, Dawn began to explore the possibility of refinancing the existing $537 million TIFIA loan for the Mid-Coast project with the Build America Bureau. And what's notable is that the Bureau had never refinanced a loan like this without adding scope to the project. But of course, we didn't need to add scope to the project because we have the project. And so in 2020, the Bureau signaled that it might be willing to consider this. So Dawn put forth dedicated efforts to collect and submit all of the required information, and she maintained and cultivated the relationships with Bureau staff, including the coordination of a team of bankers and lawyers. And she went above and beyond to meet the extraordinarily tight schedule. So the ultimate outcome of her efforts led to the execution of a new loan at a rate of 1.75%, which results in long-term savings of $123 million for SANDAG region taxpayers and for SANDAG. So on behalf of the SANDAG Board of Directors, I want to personally thank Dawn for her strategic leadership and her swift execution. So I don't know if she's on today and wanted to say a word, but she looks like maybe not. So thank you.
I am, and I really would just like to say that thank you so much for the recognition and for the thanks. Our team here at SANDAG is amazing. All of the staff who contributed throughout the process is amazing. Too many to name. I appreciate the recognition, and I really appreciate the team of fantastic people I work with.
Well, thank you. And I think all of us who are electeds for cities, we know that the staff is really the most important part because you're identifying opportunities and able to move things forward. And so that's of course true for all of these regional agencies like SANDAG. So it's important that when we have really great work like this, we recognize it. So thank you so much for saving us money. Ultimately, that means we have more money to do more projects. So we're really quite grateful.
Thank you, my pleasure.
All right, so next on our upcoming events, or next is our upcoming events. So hopefully many of you have received the save the date from our clerk, Francesca, last Friday for upcoming 2021 SANDAG member orientation. So I know staff has put a lot of effort into pulling this together. And like I said, with 25 members rotating off the board, we have a lot of new members. And this will be a great opportunity to learn about SANDAG and a primer and a reminder for anybody who's been on the board already. So like, for example, if you are someone on the SANDAG board who doesn't immediately know the difference between the RTIP and the RTP and the budget, that's the kind of thing that will be covered in this orientation. And so I encourage you to at least attend some of them, some of the sections that seem the most relevant to what you'd like to know, because it will help you to be a really effective board member. So number two, and if you have any questions about which section to attend or what you're interested in, just respond to Francesca when she sends out the email and ask the question, and staff will get right back to you. So the next thing is, I'm excited to share that phase 2 of the Inland Rail Trail is nearing completion. And I know that Mayor Judy Ritter from Vista has been patiently awaiting this day for a while now. She's mentioned it multiple times since I've been on the board with her. So the segment that's being completed is part of a planned 21-mile Class 1 bikeway that goes through the cities of Oceanside, Vista, San Marcos, and Escondido. And there's also a portion in the unincorporated county of San Diego that's creating that interconnected regional bike network. So to celebrate the opening, unfortunately, we have to hold a virtual ribbon cutting, which of all things that deserve to be in person, bikeways are the kind of thing that we love to get out on our bikes and be there riding through the balloons and all sorts of things. But we can't do that, so it'll be virtual. And staff will be providing more updates and info on how to watch that ribbon cutting And I hope that we're able to see you all out on the trail one day. And then last but not least, as you may or may not know, SANDAG and Caltrans are developing a series of what's called Comprehensive Multimodal Corridor Plans, or CMCPs, which will help apply the 5 big moves as part of the regional plan. So SANDAG will be having its first public workshop for the section that's the South Bay to Sorrento corridor. So that's South Bay to Sorrento corridor. And that's next Thursday, January 28th from 6 to 7:30. And of course, it's via Zoom. So I know that several of our board members from that region are planning to attend and participate. And we are excited to hear our community's thoughts and feedback on how we can best improve transportation in that corridor. There's, of course, more information on the SANDAG website for anybody interested. And that wraps up the announcements that I have for today. So I wanted to there are a number of more things to come, of course, but I wanted to just stop here and see if there are any other board member comments. And then we will go to Joe Stuyvesant, who would also like to make some comments. So let me take a look here for any hands. Okay, not seeing any hands. So we will go to Joe.
Thank you very much, Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to speak very briefly. Thank you. Last week, last board meeting, there were some very kind comments made, and I'm grateful, very grateful for those comments. And I wanted to say that while I'm leaving the Navy position, I'm very excited to have the opportunity to serve in a position that will serve the greater San Diego community, which is my home. As I'm changing out, I want to assure the board and the community at large that does not change the Navy's commitment to working with the community on the development of the Navwar site known as OTC. The Navy at the highest levels has signed an MOU to work this project, and just because a local person is going to change out doesn't change that at all. We have a great team who's going to continue to follow through and work closely with your team to bring this to fruition to serve both the Navy's need for a mission critical facility, Navwar, and the community's need for to develop a project in a transit oriented way with a central mobility hub. Finally, I'd like to thank the SANDAG staff, Hassan and the team who've been working closely with us on this project. So thank you all very much, and I look forward to seeing you in my new role.
Thank you, Joe. And so we wish you well. You know, you're becoming the executive director of the Port of San Diego. And he has served, for people who may not know, as the Department of Defense representative here at the SANDAG board. So we will look forward to working with you in your new capacity. We know that SANDAG and the Port have a longstanding relationship of working together to advance our infrastructure projects. And of course, we will continue that. So I'd also like to take a moment right here to recognize Ms. Rhonda Caniglio, who has been excellent to work with. Under her leadership, the Port signed a very meaningful MOU that committed the local transportation agencies to constructing a world-class transportation system. And her collaborative approach is a model for those in the region. So Rhonda, if you're watching, thank you for your service and your dedication to the San Diego region. So with that, we will move to our PAC reports. Are there any comments from our PAC chairs? If there are, you can raise your hand and I will call on you. I am not seeing any. So are there any public comments on this item, Francesca?
Sorry, Catherine, this is Serge. I can't do I'm not sure why the hand thing on my computer isn't working, but
no, don't worry about it. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, this is Serge Adina, Mayor of Imperial Beach and Chair of the Borders Committee. I was remiss in not mentioning Supervisor Nora Vargas and thanking her for the vaccine rollout, but today we have the meeting of the Borders meeting, our first of the year. That meeting is with our tribal government partners. San Diego has the largest group of tribal governments in any county in the country. We just had our tribal summit, which was very moving and inspiring and a great success. I want to thank SANDAG staff for all the amazing work they've done with our tribal government partners to actually focus on improving the quality of life in some of our most sort of like remote areas. So that's been really great. But today we have folks who work on both sides of the border, of US-Mexico border, including Calixto Mateos, who's the head of the North American Development Bank. And the NAD Bank has been critical ally in building infrastructure on the border, including helping us fix Tijuana's failing sewage infrastructure. So it was interesting the past few years, we actually had a foreign minister of Mexico visit the SANDAG borders meeting. In times of transition between the United States and Mexican governments, this committee in our leaderful binational region takes on critical importance in moving forward a positive, proactive, neighborly, and diplomatic US-Mexico relations based on getting things done, building infrastructure on the border that does a few things. First, it addresses equity because it makes it easier to cross the border. Number two, it deals with climate and air quality and water quality because it cleans up our air and water and makes sure that kids in IB and South San Diego have clean beaches, but kids in San Ysidro and South San Diego and Chula Vista, a national city, have clean air, and improves our economy, something we need to do because just in the past few years alone, border projects have brought in over $1 billion to our region, just in construction projects. That's paying US workers to build things in the United States to help people cross the border and create clean air and good jobs, and clean water. So really excited about the Borders Committee and the leadership that SANDAG and this board shows in bridging partnerships with our county governments, our international neighbor, Mexico, and of course, our tribal governments. So we'll continue that and look forward to more leadership as we have this two nations emerge in a new transition, but it's more important than ever to show leadership at our level and to continue that strong binational leadership. So thank you so much. And again, thanks to the SANDAG staff for all the work they do to continually reach out to our neighbors in our counties, tribal governments, and of course, Mexico.
Okay, thank you. Now we have our executive director's report. Hassan?
Thank you, Chairwoman. Good morning to all of you. This is the first meeting of fully seated new board of directors. It's an honor to be with you and work with you. I look forward with my team to working with you. I too would like to welcome our new board members. Good to have Carlsbad Mayor Matt Hall back to the board. Welcome, Mayor. It's also nice to see Solana Beach Mayor Lisa Hibner. Welcome back. And welcome to La Mesa City Council member Jack Shu. Mr. Shu, you have moved from public speaker to podium to the dais. I look forward to working with you. I hope you won't give me a hard time with this transition, but we'll see. We have got a lot of work to do, and I look forward to working with all of you with my team. Like the chair said, I said something about Joe Stuyvesant last time. I must take a moment to thank Joe Stuyvesant, our Department of Defense representative. He's the consummate professional, a pleasure to work with. He drove a hard bargain for his Navy team, and I expect that he will do the same at the Port of San Diego. An amazing professional, a good friend. I look forward to working with him in his new endeavor. And I want to wish Rhonda a great retirement and thank her for all the collaboration that we did. A couple of items. You heard about the Mid-Coast refinancing from our amazing team, Andre and Don Vitis. I would like to echo the chair that when you have a staff that could be the first in the country to take advantage of this interest rate change and save $123 million. That's something to be proud of. And that couldn't happen in any agency. It happened in agencies that has Don and Andre as a CFO. This is, as I told you before, part of reducing the cash flow issue that we have. I reported to you that we have about a $250 million cash flow issue when we started, and we're doing everything we can to minimize that. I think if we do everything we said we're gonna do, and if we're successful, we will still have a cash flow problem of about $110 million. This is a real problem that's gonna require us to either stop project, not start project, but that discussion will happen after we exhaust all mechanisms like what we just did to minimize that impact. Next week, I will be participating on a panel with the new administration, President Biden's administration, to talk about what can we partner with the federal government, what is the low-hanging fruit when it comes to transportation. I am joined with many other colleagues, including our Secretary of Transportation, David Kim. Obviously, I want them to know that SANDAG is on the cutting edge. I think it's leading the state and probably the country in looking at a data-driven approach, applying future mobility. I will be sharing information about our approach, about the future mobility aspects, about climate change perspective, and how we get there. And I believe we're gonna have a good chance of working well and getting funding from this administration, because what we did at SANDAG is we actually started ahead of everyone to put forth a future reimagination of transportation system that's data-based. An update on the Del Mar Bluff. Last week, crew put the finishing touches on the 4th phase of the Del Mar Bluff stabilization project. We want to thank our partners at NCTD, Caltrans, California Transportation Commission, California Coastal Commission, and the city of Del Mar, as well as our federal and state representative who helped make this project possible. As I told the board, we identified the funding for the next phases of Bluff 5 and 6 that hopefully will finish the short-term stabilization of the bluff, and then we will continue to pay attention to the long-term solution of moving the bluff altogether. Some administrative items I would like the board to know about. As part of my remarks this morning, there are several administrative items I would like to bring to your attention. Staff has reviewed recent TD and TransNet revenue estimates. Believe it or not, I'm happy to report to you that they are higher than projected when the fiscal 2021 budget was developed. As a result, staff will be bringing a budget amendment for this board's consideration next month. This amendment is good news for our member agencies. It will result in an increase of TDA and TransNet funding to the tune of about 7%. Last week, I approved a number of updates to the SANDAG employee handbook. This document is due to be distributed to employees next week. The edit reflect changes in employment law, introducing new practices, and provide a clarification on items noted during the last year's compensation audit, and provide for modest improvement to the employee benefits program, which will be paid for using savings from the approved fiscal 2021 budget. John Kirk and his team will be presenting proposed changes to the SANDAG bylaws and board policies in the coming month or two. And additional information about the employee handbook shall be provided as part of those conversations. There are several points to be raised here. One is we're staying within the budget, but we'll be talking to you about these budget improvements in the next month or two. I want to conclude by welcoming the new board members and saying we're ready to move forward. We need to move the region forward. We're ready to reimagine the future of transportation in this region. Thank you very much, Chair. Back to you.
Okay, thank you. Now we're on to our consent calendar.
Chair Blakespeare, I believe we have one public speaker on the executive director's report.
Okay, let's hear that.
Sorry about that. Allison, you can go ahead and self-mute and make your comments.
Sorry, that was a mistake.
Okay, no problem at all. All right, Chair, I think we're good to move on then.
Hi, yes, this is Mayor Raquel Vasquez. And I have one comment regarding item number 14, which are the meeting minutes for December 18th. And in the meeting minutes, it lists Jennifer Mendoza as in attendance representing the city of Lemon Grove. And in fact, I was in attendance for that particular meeting.
Okay, let's update the minutes to reflect that. Do we have any public comments on the consent calendar?
No, Chair, I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, any other board comments? And if not, I would entertain a motion. And maybe Mayor Vasquez, was that a motion with the amendments that you suggested to clarify the accuracy there?
Yes, I'd like to make the motion.
Sotelo Solis, second item, consent items 4 through 11. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Mayor Vasquez, and we have a second by Mayor Sotelo Solis. So if the clerk could please take the roll.
Thank you. For the city of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
Aye.
Thank you. For the city of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Salas, aye.
Thank you. For the city of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
Bailey, yes.
Thank you. For the county of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Aye.
Thank you. For the city of Del Mar, Mayor Gasterland.
Gasterland, aye.
Thank you. For the city of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
Wells, yes.
Thank you. For the city of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Blakespear, yes.
Thank you. For the city of Escondido, Mayor McNamara.
McNamara, yes.
Thank you. For the city of Imperial Beach, Mayor Dedina.
Medina, yes.
For the city of La Mesa, Councilmember Shu.
La Mesa, yes.
Thank you. For the city of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, yes.
Thank you. For the city of National City, Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
Thank you. For the city of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yes.
Thank you. For the city of Poway, Mayor Voss.
Aye.
Thank you. For the city of San Diego, Mayor Gloria.
Aye.
Thank you. For the city of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, yes.
Thank you. For the city of Santee, Mayor Minto.
Minto, yes.
Thank you. For the city of Solana Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Hebner, yes.
Thank you. And for the city of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
Thank you. And that passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you very much. So the next item we have is item number 12, and this is election of the 21-22 board vice chair position, and then additionally discussion of reinstatement of the second vice chair position. So just to lay out how this will go, we'll consider first the election of the vice chair, and we do not have any applications pending for that position. So candidates can be nominated from the floor. And then after candidates are nominated, then we will go to any public comments or board member comments, and then we'll go to a motion on that item. And then we'll move on to the second item, the reinstatement of the second vice chair position. So just as a reminder, all primary board members are eligible to serve as the vice chair, other than those from the North County Coastal Subregion, because I'm from the North County Coastal Subregion and you can't have the chair and the vice chair from the same subregion. So with that, I will open the floor for nominations for the vice chair position.
Chair, this is Mayor.
And I'll call on Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. You know, as we enter this 2021 year, there's so much very positive movement. And I think that now with my new colleagues from the city of San Diego and La Mesa and all over and throughout the county, we have a great opportunity to continue moving this forward under your leadership, Mayor Blakespear. And so through that, I would support the discussion for that second vice chair. But for first chair, I would love to nominate Mayor Todd Gloria for first vice chair position. as is discussed on the agenda today. I think he would be a great succession plan. I know that we have a number of things that we will be discussing in the next few years. And Todd has that leadership ability, bringing people across the aisle. And I know that Mayor Gloria will work, side by side with our existing team and to engage our organization and lead it to the next level. And with that, I too would be interested in that second vice chair position once we have that discussion. But my motion is to nominate Mayor Todd Gloria for vice chair for the 21-22 election cycle.
Okay, thank you. And just to
Can I
clarify,
second, or are we allowed to second, or? do we have to
so
discuss?
let me just clarify, because there are, I think, a lot of different thoughts about this. So the nomination does not need a second. So and Council President Campbell had indicated already to me that she wants me to call on her for the second, but we're not at the seconding stage yet. We're at the nominating stage here. So we will nominate anybody who wants to get into the nomination, and then we'll go to motion and second. So I will now look for other hands that might be raised if anybody wanted to nominate somebody else. So we appear to have one nomination of the San Diego Mayor, Gloria, and I will now go to the city clerk and ask if there are any public comments. Or Sandag clerk, sorry.
No, Chair, I don't see any hands from the public.
Okay, so then we'll take board comments and then we'll take a motion. So does anybody want to make board comments? Okay, so now we have, and I have to see a hand raised there. Council President Campbell, would you like to make a comment?
Thank you to get unmuted here. Thank you. Yes, I would like to make a comment since we don't require a second. I'd just like to thank Mayor Sotelo-Solis for nominating Mayor Gloria to be the vice chair of this board. Mayor Todd Gloria, whom I've known for the past 15 years, will bring his boundless energy and enthusiasm to Sandag, and our future couldn't be in better hands than his and Chair Blake Spears. I've seen him in action on city council, not only as a budget committee chair, succeeding with the budget even in hard times, as council president, as a humble and honorable representative of our citizens, and also doing that as a state legislator very successfully. And now as our new mayor. In all cases, his leadership is one of making positive action possible, always with fairness and collaboration. There are so many critical decisions that we will face, and I know our Mayor Gloria will lead in building the foundation for a more connected region. I know that Todd is the perfect choice, and I am wholeheartedly in favor of this nomination.
Okay, great. And I know that that sounded just like a second to Mayor Sotelo-Solis' motion.
Second, I'll make it.
Okay. Okay, so I think we have a motion from Mayor Sotelo-Solis and a second from Council President. And so if there are any other hands up, okay, I see a hand up, Mayor Gasterland.
I think Mayor Vasquez had her hand up first, and I'll be second after her.
Okay, Mayor Vasquez.
Good morning, everyone. I'd just like to echo the sentiment of what's been shared so far regarding Mayor Todd Gloria. He brings a wealth of knowledge regarding transportation issues forward, but also a wealth of experience. And it's only fitting that he should serve as vice chair for SANDAG. So I said, let's connect Todd Gloria to the position. And I believe that he's worthy of all of our support. Thank you.
Thank you. Now Mayor Gasterland.
Yes, I wanted to add an endorsement and a thank you from the tiniest city, Del Mar, in the SANDAG jurisdictions. Todd Gloria has been a fantastic supporter, friend, and ally of Del Mar in so many of the struggles that we've had. So I see no better leader, quite frankly, then Todd Gloria as vice chair, together with Catherine Blakespear as chair. Thank you.
Thank you. So now let's go to our SANDAG attorney, John, who will go over the procedure.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's a couple of points of order as we vote here. First of all, pursuant to one of SANDAG's governing statutes, and that's Public Utilities Code 132-352.3, the SANDAG leadership is to be elected by means of the weighted vote only. That means we will not have the initial tally vote. And as with other weighted voting instances, both representatives of the City of San Diego and the County of San Diego may vote in the election. Additionally, pursuant to FPPC regulations, specifically 18705.5, the candidate may remain in the meeting and may vote for himself. The FPPC Form 806 will be posted to the SANDAG website, identifying board officers and their stipends, and that's what allows the candidate to remain in and to vote. And that is it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let's move to the vote.
Thank you. For the City of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Salas, aye.
Thank you. For the City of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
Bailey, yes.
Thank you. For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Aye.
Thank you. The County of San Diego seat B is absent this morning. For the City of Del Mar, Mayor Gasterland.
Aye, Gasterland.
Thank you. For the City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Blakespear, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Escondido, Mayor McNamara.
McNamara, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Imperial Beach, Mayor Dedina.
Dina, yes.
Thank you. For the City of La Mesa, Councilmember Shu.
La Mesa, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, yes.
Thank you. For the City of National City, Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
Thank you. For the City of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Poway, Mayor Boss.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of San Diego, Mayor Gloria.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of San Diego, Council President Campbell.
Campbell, yes.
Thank you. For the City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Santee, Mayor Minto.
Minto, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Solana Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Ebner, a hearty yes.
Thank you. And for the City of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
Thank you very much. And that does pass with those members present.
Okay, great. Congratulations to our new vice chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I make a few comments, if that's okay with you, Madam Chair? I want to express my appreciation to you, Chair Blakespear, to Mayor Sotelo Solis for her nomination, and to my fellow board colleagues for your unanimous vote this morning. As I shared when I joined the board and back in December, after like a Hebner length hiatus, I truly enjoyed this organization. I enjoyed all 8 years of my previous experience. I'm really excited to be back again. And I'm particularly excited to serve with you, Chair Blakespear. You have done, I think, a wonderful job, not just representing and serving your city, but having a regional point of view that I think is truly important. I know that in this particular capacity, we as board members of SANDAG really have the opportunity to improve the lives of millions of people. It's not a responsibility I take lightly. I know all of you take it extremely seriously as well. And in this time of extreme challenges with between COVID-19 and our economic recession, I know that our work is only much more important for us to do. As I look at the screen, while there are many new members, many of us are returning or have been able to serve with previously. And I particularly appreciate the comments of Council President Campbell Mayor Vasquez and Mayor Gasterlin. And Mayor Gasterlin, I don't mind Del Mar's diminutive size. I was so proud to represent your city in the legislature for 4 years. And I hope, as I said in my introductory comments upon joining the board, while I may represent the largest city in our region, I understand and concerned with and will help advocate for our smaller cities who need to have a voice in this regional body. Lastly, I'll just point out my goal remains to assist our chair and our SANDAG staff, the incredible SANDAG staff, to create a world-class public transportation system for our community. I see it as critical for job and economic growth, for meeting our housing responsibilities, as well as improving the quality of life of so many of our cities. We have the opportunity this year ahead to adopt a regional plan that will be transformative for our region. And I look forward to an inclusive process that includes voices from across the region to get it done. And lastly, and probably most importantly, and this is for Jack Shu, who I've already felt like I've served on a board with for the last number of years, but Jack, it's good to be on the same side of the dais with you. All of this in furtherance of our climate responsibilities. We have a finite amount of time to be able to do right by future generations of San Diegans and leaving this region that we have inherited better than we found it. Under your leadership, Chair Blakespeare, I believe we can do it. I'm grateful for the opportunity as your first vice chair. And I look forward to the conversation about a second vice chair and supporting dynamic leadership from the South Bay to make sure that our regional leadership, our leadership of this board represents the regional diversity of San Diego. So again, thank you all for your time and for your support this morning.
Well, thank you. I look forward to serving with you. So let's move on to that next discussion, the discussion of reinstatement of the second vice chair position. So if the board did want to reinstate, what would need to happen is a vote to direct staff to return with proposed amendments to the bylaws to provide for the reinstatement of the second vice chair position. So before I open it up to the board, let's see if we have public comments at this time. Francesca, do we have any?
No, Chair, I don't see any hands from the public.
Okay, then let's go to comments from board members. Council member or Vice Chair Gloria.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I appreciate this item being agendized. I would like to make a motion to direct staff to reinstate the position of second vice chair and to have those changes brought back to our next board meeting. I'm hopeful that this process can be set up to be consistent with the process for electing the chair and the first vice chair position. And I want to acknowledge and support the comments of Mayor of National City, Sotelo Solis, expressing her interest in serving that position. I think that that is an excellent idea, and I would be happy to support her when the time comes for that vote on filling the second vice chair position. Again, hoping to do that at the same time as we adopt the necessary bylaw changes to recreate the position and then fill it with, again, my hope, the Mayor of National City. So again, that would be my motion, is to direct staff to reinstate the position and bring that back to our next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Huebner.
Yes, I would just like to bring in one other concept that happened when I was on the board years ago, and that is we did not have, actually at the time we did have a first and second chair, but also the chair and first and second chair called on the chairs of the Regional Planning Committee and Transportation Committee to form a leadership group. I think it's very valuable to have a group in leadership to bounce ideas off of, and how many that might be would be up to the chair and vice chair. But I just wanted to throw that out as another idea.
Okay, thank you. And I will second the vice chair's motion. Mayor Voss.
Thank you. I'm not convinced that we need a second vice chair. Things have changed since the days that we had that. Most notably that the terms are now 2 years. When I was chair, before I handed off the gavel to Mayor Blakespeare, I specifically asked, you all, I'm sure, realize we typically in the past have nominated and voted for the chair and vice chair at the same time in November or December. I intentionally moved the discussion for vice chair to the new year and the new board, so the new board could pick their leader for the future because there's a typical succession plan. if we have a second vice chair, we would be looking 6 years into the future. I'm not convinced that's wise. I know Chair Blakespear will make excellent selections for the committee appointments. And I think we should look there for our leadership in the future. Having said all that, if we do choose to add a second vice chair, I would recommend that we memorialize in the future that the vice chair and second vice chair are chosen by the new board once they are seated, rather than the old board that might cycle out. So hope that makes sense. Appreciate the opportunity to share those thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Chair Voss. It's always good to have the historic knowledge from both you and from Mayor Huebner of this board's operation, because that just brings depth to it. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes, I would agree with Mayor Voss' sentiment on, as we look to the future and the continual change up of our board, establishing a second vice chair. I mean, there was a reason why it was terminated to begin with, and why we've, moved on just the chair and vice chair concept. I think adding in a second vice chair is just, it's setting us up for, it's setting us up 6 years out, where I think as we change and we evolve to represent all of our communities, it's a chair and a vice chair is the most appropriate course moving forward, in my opinion. So I will not be supporting the second vice chair. I think that would be the job of the future chair and the body that sits at this board to make those decisions in the future. I think this would be getting in the way of that big time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments from board members? And I'll just offer the, Mayor Dedina.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we get back into a real discussion of things rather than a political discussion, because the reality was, when I was nominated for second chair, and I think it was Mayor Salas was nominated for the vice chair, all of a sudden there was a behind the scenes discussion about eliminating them. There was no public discussion about it. So look, I believe in being diplomatic and sort of like moving forward, but let's not sugarcoat the past about why decisions were made. It was very clear about why it was. There was clearly people didn't want certain people in leadership positions, and that's fine. I get it. But let's not sugarcoat it and discuss about, it was some sort of policy framework and democratic and transparent. It wasn't. This is a good move for us. I support Todd and Alejandro moving forward. I think we've got great leadership, but I just want to make sure that we move forward, not sugarcoating the past and making believe that decisions were made in transparent and democratic ways. So anyway.
Thank you, Mayor Gasterland.
Yes, I would like to provide just some perspective, again, from the perspective of a small jurisdiction. I welcome North County, large city, and Eastern or Bay Area representation. Having leadership that's a triangle that really spans SANDAG will be functional. And there's a lot of work to do, especially this coming up year. And especially this year, having a second vice chair will be an asset to this board.
Mayor Salas.
Yes, thank you very much. So this was a discussion several years. There was a position of a second vice chair, and I have to agree with Serge Dedina that I think that at that time it was just a matter to block personalities. And so, nothing says that because you have a second vice chair that there's a natural series of progression. We have the opportunity every time we elect a chair or a vice chair or a second vice chair to vote on the substance of the person that is being nominated at the time. And so I see that there's more positives to have a second vice chair than not. And so with that, I will be supporting the efforts to reinstate the second vice chair position.
Okay, thank you. No, I see no more board hands up. So going once, going twice. Okay, I'll call on the clerk to Take a vote.
Chair, for clarification, with the maker of the motion, the timeline that was proposed, I think Vice Chair Gloria mentioned the timeline being in sync. I guess just if we could get clarification when it would be brought forward again.
Yes, let's ask staff to address that question. What's the timeline here?
Thank you.
February 12th, we will be bringing that to the board.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. For the City of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
No.
Thank you. For the City of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
Bailey, no.
Thank you. For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer. I'll come back to the supervisor. For the City of Del Mar, Mayor Gasterland.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
No.
Thank you. For the City of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Blakespear, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Escondido, Mayor McNamara.
McNamara, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Imperial Beach, Mayor Davina.
Dina, yes.
Thank you. For the City of La Mesa, Councilmember Shu.
La Mesa, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, yes.
Mayor Vasquez, I'm sorry, was that a yes?
Yes.
Thank
Mayor
you.
Vasquez, yes.
For the City of National City, Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
Thank you. For the City of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, no.
Thank you. For the City of Poway, Mayor Voss.
No.
Thank you. For the City of San Diego, Mayor Gloria.
San Diego, aye.
Thank you. For the City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, no.
Thank you. For the City of Santee, Mayor Minto.
Minto, no.
Thank you. For the City of Solana Beach, Mayor Huebner.
Huebner, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, no.
Thank you. And I'll come back to the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer. Supervisor Lawson Reamer, you are muted at the moment.
Hi, sorry, I was trying to have trouble with my mute. Yes, aye.
Thank you very much. And that motion does pass.
Okay. Thank you. Now we are on to our next item, which is item 13. So this is about the Audit Committee and the Litter Abatement Subcommittee. And I just want to say a couple words about this because a number of people have reached out to me about appointments to the committees that are like Transportation Committee or Regional Planning. Those are not committees that the chair would make a recommendation about. Those things are happening at the sub-region level. So that is all of the cities that are in your sub-region, which I think are 5, are the ones that get together and decide how to divvy up the 5 different subcommittees. So that will happen. And if you're interested in those, you need to talk to your primary board member to work those out. But we have 2 that that we do need to have volunteers from and that I would make a recommendation for, and that's the Audit Committee and then also the Litter Subcommittee. So I'll just say a couple words about both. So the Audit Committee is really important. And if you were following the items that we dealt with at this board last year, you know that the Audit Committee was very active, and it's really important that we have people who are engaged on that committee. So the duties are to assist the board in fulfilling its oversight responsibilities and to provide a forum for pursuing opportunities for improvements in operations, financial reporting, and internal controls. So the Audit Committee consists of 5 voting members, and 2 come from this board of directors, and then 3 of them come from members of the public. So we have 2 current open board member positions, and each appointment is for a 2-year term. So if you are interested in that, And I'll admit that we historically have had problems filling this committee. So please consider raising your hand for this. It is really important, and it is a great way to understand in depth what the agency of SANDAG is doing. So please reach out to Francesca by Monday, February 1st, if you're interested in serving on the audit committee. And we have had a requirement that someone had to be on the board for 3 years, but we could, if we don't have anybody in that category who volunteers, we could need to circle back to change that requirement because the new board members we have now, but please consider that. And then the second one is a call for new members of the Regional Litter Abatement Subcommittee. So this subcommittee is really important because if you drive around our freeways, you have likely noticed that there is just an unacceptable amount of trash on the freeway. And many of us as elected leaders in our individual cities as mayors or council people have had ongoing or specific conversations with Caltrans about hotspots, and systemically it's just not getting better. So we formed this subcommittee at the SANDAG board because this is the transportation board that has all members of the cities and the county on it, to basically have public in public a discussion with Caltrans and another and CHP and community groups so that we can drive better accountability and actually see a difference here. So if you're interested in serving on the subcommittee, I think it's a great opportunity to make a difference for the region and for your city to reduce the trash in this county. And we are laser focused on that. So the committee, and from my perspective, will go on as long as it needs to for us to achieve that goal of reducing and cleaning up our freeways. So we had great engagement in the last board. I'm hoping that this board will also have volunteers, and it could be the primary or the secondary or the tertiary board member who volunteers to do it. So if you're interested, please let Francesca know by the 1st. You can also let me know and I'll forward it to her if that's easier for you. So with that, do we have any public comments on this item, Francesca?
No, Chair, I don't see any hands from the public.
Okay. And let me look and just make sure we don't have any. Okay, I don't see any hands raised for these two. So our report, first report today is item number 14, and this is the SANDAG Commitment to Equity Statement. And I'd like to turn it over to Hassan. Would you like to introduce?
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning again to all board members. This is an important item for all of us in San Diego. It is important that we be an example to the rest of the state and the country of how we move forward as an agency that influences the future of San Diegans and their access to opportunities. SANDAG has developed a commitment to equity statement to capture the agency's unequivocal commitment to anti-racism. This including prioritizing projects, programs, and services that affect the quality of life for historically underserved, systematically marginalized groups in our region. Throughout the San Diego region, there is such a group that's been marginalized. And it is our duty to make sure that stops. It's our duty that we do everything possible to overcome the sins of the past when we divided communities and did things that really we shouldn't have done. But it's not too late. It is time to make social equity an important factor in how we move forward as an agency. The draft statement was presented to the community-based organizations working group, the Tribal Transportation Working Group, the Social Service Transportation Advisory Council to discuss some feedback. Before I go any further in my comment, I'd like to ask Irene McCormack, who has been an amazing leader in this area, to read the statement to the board so they have the latest version in their mind. Irene?
Thank you, Hassan. Good morning, board members. Good morning, Chair Blakespear and new Vice Chair Todd Gloria. It's great to see you here. This is the working draft 2 of our commitment to equity statement. We hold ourselves accountable to the communities we serve. We acknowledge we have much to learn and much to change. And we firmly uphold equity and inclusion for every person in the San Diego region. This includes historically underserved, systemically marginalized groups impacted by actions and inactions at all levels of our government and society. We have an obligation to eliminate disparities and ensure that safe, healthy, accessible, and inclusive opportunities are available to everyone. In 2021, SANDAG will develop an equity action plan that will inform how we plan, prioritize, and build projects and programs, frame how we work with our communities, define how we recruit and develop our employees, guide our efforts to conduct unbiased research and interpret data, and set expectations for companies and stakeholders that work with us. We are committed to creating a San Diego region where every person who visits, works, and lives can thrive. Back to you, Hassan.
Thank you, Irene. So as we continue to reflect on systemic infrastructure racism, the effects of riddling and the tribal one we live on, we recognize the need to meaningfully invest our resources to support and sustain equity throughout the region. You have my commitments and my team commitments to work with you as leaders of this community to make sure that we mean what we say and we say what we mean. I am extremely honored to work with amazing leaders on this board, and I want to call on our mayor of the second largest city in California and the 8th largest in the union to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Madden. And thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. McCormick, for the presentation. It's wonderful to see you. I just wanted to express my appreciation both to the Chair, to staff, and to Councilmember Vivian Moreno and the CBO Working Group for their efforts on this particular item. I really appreciate SANDAG being proactive in proposing an equity statement. I think it speaks extremely well for the kind of inclusivity that we want to be as an agency that has the opportunity to, as I mentioned earlier, impact the lives of millions of San Diegans. I'm happy to support this item today. I believe that as a public agency with an annual budget of over $1 billion, I think it is important that we hold ourselves accountable to the communities that we serve. One of my top priorities is to ensure the investments that we make benefit all communities, and that we start recognizing that all communities don't start from the same place. And I think that's enshrined in the language that Ms. McCormick read into the record. This statement captures the need for us to work even more closely with our communities to ensure that we're working to address the issues of racial, social, environmental, and transportation justice. This is something that I couldn't have imagined SANDAG having considered 12 years ago when I went to my first SANDAG meeting. I'm really grateful it's on the agenda today, and I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Mayor Gloria. And now the amazing Council President, Dr. Jen Campbell.
Thank you. The decisions of SANDAG are some of the most substantial that are made in our region and affect the lives of every resident of San Diego County. These values of equality and justice are the values that lead our nation to become a more perfect union. Equity should be the value of every citizen, government, and organization, and it takes a deep self-reflection to see where we as a society have fallen short. SANDAG has much to do to bring our local transit system to a world-class level that promises both access and efficiency to all communities. But I have faith that this staff and board has the ambition to achieve this goal, as in the sentiments of this equity statement. As our nation's youngest poet laureate, the wonderful Amanda Gorman, said at the inauguration just 2 days ago, quote, "For there is always light if we are brave enough to see it, and if only We are brave enough to be it. I am totally in favor of this statement. Thank you.
Councilmember Vivian Moreno, who chairs the CBO group, and I believe now they have a different name. I'll let her speak about, but the floor is yours, Councilmember. You are muted, Councilmember. Still.
Councilmember Moreno, you are unmuted, but I don't think that your audio is connected.
Okay.
Back to you, ma'am. If you want to sign out, we'll look for you to sign you back in.
Okay, we'll come back to Councilmember Moreno, but as to remind the Board of Directors.
Maybe try to work with her and then we can come back.
Sure. Open approval if the
say a
board.
word.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, I was gonna. I'm sorry, Executive Director, are you finished with your comments?
No, all I want to say, Chair, is open approval. Staff will share the commitment to equity statement with the agency partners, will incorporate the statement into agency communication, and will commence development to the equity action plan, which is really what's more important. You know, statements is a statement, it has to be followed by action. And we're going to spend the next few months developing the action plan and bringing it to this board if you were to approve this today. And that concludes my report, Chairwoman Blakespear.
Okay, thank you. We'll call on the people with their hands up now. Gary Bonelli.
Thank you, Chair Blakespear. Sorry, I'm late to the meeting today. First of all, congratulations to Joe Stuyvesant for his work in the Navy, and I look forward to working with him at our port as our new president and CEO. And a great job goes to Randa Caniglio as our former CEO and president. With regard to this item in particular, words have meaning. Words have meaning, but actions speak louder than words. Couple of wordsmithing things. Because if you look at the nature of this board with the 18 cities in the county, we also have 10 advisory members, 2 of them being our Tribal Chairman's Council Association and the Department of Defense. So I would like to call out those other communities. Now, one statement about seniors and LGBTQ and women and seniors like myself, I'd like to call out our Native Americans and our military members, especially San Diego being such a home for so many active duty and retired military members. So I'd like to add Native Americans and military veterans. In addition, we also talk about recruiting and developing our employees. I like the words better, recruiting, and mentoring. Those are my comments, Chair Blakespear. Thank you for the time.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Shu.
Thank you for taking my comments on this issue. I'd like to make some comments and then propose a motion. But first, I really want to commend SANDAG, the leadership at SANDAG, for Hassan and others, and Councilmember Vivian Moreno and the CBO committee. This is the kind of action that makes SANDAG a leader in California. This is the kind of action that will show our communities that we mean equity and we're going to fix things, that we're going to treat everyone well and help those who really need help. So I really commend us moving in this direction. I want to put out one matrix that I hope SANDAG will use in the near future. And that is measuring the cost of housing and transportation together as a percentage of family income. We need that kind of matrix to build equity. We know that when the cost of transportation and housing goes above 50% of a family's income, that family's income and quality of life is stressed. When it exceeds 70%, it affects the nutrition budget. That's where we need to go when we start planning of where our projects need to be, how we deal with land use planning, how do we help those that are most in need, as well as the Cal Environmental Screening maps that the state has now provided us. When I read this, I feel tied with, with regards to 2 drafts, and I think maybe the shorter draft may work fine. But I saw a glaring omission, and that is economic justice. You know, it's fine to say that women need to be recognized and we need equity, but women should be paid the same as men. That's economic equity, or at least equality. And we need to pay attention to that. I'd like to move that we adopt this second draft as suggested by staff with the following additions. In the sentence further into the text where it starts, we have an obligation to eliminate disparities. After the word disparity, insert including economic inequity, and ensure that safety, health, and accessible. After the word accessible, insert the word economically just, and inclusive opportunities are available to everyone. In the next sentence, after the word prioritize, insert the word fund. Those are my 3 suggestions, and I move that we accept the second draft with these insertions that I have suggested. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to move through the people whose hands are up here and have been up for a little while. So I think the next in line was Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you so much. I actually really appreciate the leadership and staff on bringing this equity statement forward. I think moving out of 2020 into 2021, this is probably one of the most important times and seasons to show our community here in San Diego County that we want to work together, that we want to represent marginalized communities and communities of color. And but that needs to be backed with action and tangible projects moving into the future. And I think this really just sets the framework of that. I know here in Oceanside, over 50% of the population in my city here in Oceanside is considered marginalized. And we have a very diverse, beautiful community of color here. And believe it or not, we have one of the largest Samoan populations in the world outside of Samoa. And so, you know, regardless of the add-ons or the simplicity of this equity statement, I think it speaks volumes, but it also needs to move toward tangible infrastructure for our diverse community here in North County. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Gustavo Delarda.
Thank you, Chair Blakespeare, and congratulations, by the way, to Mayor Gloria, now Vice Chair of the SANDAG Board. I want to commend Director Ricarda, as well as Irene and the rest of the SANDAG staff for coming up with this equity statement. You may recall that last fall, Caltrans released a similar equity statement, so I'm really glad to see that our organizations are in alignment. So we totally support this equity statement. And like Mr. Ricarda, as well as Mr. Bonelli mentioned, I look forward to working together to coming up with concrete actions that will implement this equity statement. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez here. I just want to take this opportunity to thank everyone involved in putting together this equity statement. I'll just share with everyone here. back in December, I received a briefing, and the topic of equality was of discussion. And my number one question was, well, how does SANDAG define equality? And it was a very valid question. And so I had the opportunity to engage staff in a meeting and to discuss what equality could mean to SANDAG as we do our business. And what I see here, in looking at the information, we did get two different versions. The one version that really speaks to my heart is the first version that calls out peoples of other communities and culture, and women and LGBTQ and seniors. But there's so much more. And my thought here is, while we know that there is a vast array of, I'll say, populations that could be impacted by the word equality, that we make sure that we acknowledge all of those communities. And we can simply do that by making sure that we provide a full list of those marginalized communities on the SANDAG website. What I know is that in this moment, our society has reached critical mass. And I am appreciative to know that SANDAG is on the forefront of recognizing what is needed in our communities, but also as it's needed regarding transportation. And so thank you. Thank you for bringing this forward and really scoping out and defining what equality is as we move forward with the daily business of SANDAG, which is building connections throughout San Diego County, but also, with our board. And I believe that the same ethic that's moving forward with our work as SANDAG should move forward with our board, providing an opportunity for all of the members to serve in different capacities, to bring about an added value to SANDAG. The one thing that I know about equality, it is the state of being equal, especially in status, rights, and opportunities. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to seeing more information roll forward regarding equality.
Thank you. Mayor Gasterland.
Thank you very much. So first, I want to commend the committee that has drafted these equity statements. It's a very hard thing to do. I've been involved in equity statement writing for an international society at the University of California, and it is tough. So I applaud the simpler draft 2. Keep it simple, really makes a difference. And I fully agree with having on the SANDAG website a listing. So I've been thinking about board member Shu's suggestions with his motion. And in the spirit of keep it simple, my read semantically is that the economic justice is included implicitly, but adding that word fund after prioritize would add something to this statement. So I would second with a friendly amendment of only adding the word fund after the word prioritize. I would second Jack Shu's motion.
Okay. Mayor Jones.
Thank you very much, Chair. So looking at number 1, draft number 1 and draft number 2, I agree with Mayor Vasquez's comments about the actual definition of the marginalized groups. Here in San Marcos, about 40% of my city is Hispanic. And so I like the part color, and just trying to incorporate all of the different cities and all of our different definitions, I think is very important. I also have a very low income senior population in my mobile home parks. I have a lot of mobile home parks here in San Marcos. So for those reasons, and then I also really appreciate Gary Bonelli's statement about the Native Americans in the military. So I would make a motion, a substitute motion for working draft number 1, incorporating Native Americans and then also the military populations. We have a lot of military here in San Diego County, and I think spelling that out specifically because they are marginalized in so many ways, I think is very important. So for that reason, I would make a motion to substitute motion for working draft number 1. Thank you.
And I think we have 2 more hands up, but I think I'm going to suggest that we not vote on the wordsmithing today at the board level, but that we create a subcommittee to work some of these things out, because there are a lot of different opinions, and I know that certain phrases have been chosen for certain reasons by staff, and I think it's too time consuming for us to get into it at this board meeting, especially given the diversity of different comments that have been added today. So if you are interested in serving on a subcommittee to work together with the staff to come up with this statement, think about that, and I'll return to that as a suggestion after we get through the rest of these board members.
Chair Blakespear, may I just for a clarification ask Irene to clarify why we went from draft 1 to draft 2, just for the members to know the thinking process. Irene, can you?
Yes, thank you, Hassan. Thank you, Chair. One of the things that we discussed after all the meetings that we had was every single time we included new groups into the statement of working draft 1, we got feedback that we were forgetting somebody else. And the whole point of the equity statement was to look at the history of the region's decisions over transportation and determine who in fact was marginalized by it. And frankly, a lot of people are, a lot of different groups are in every community in our region. So we worked on language where every person who read it would feel like they saw themselves in it, which is why we talked about the historically underserved, the systemically marginalized groups impacted by all the actions and inactions of government agencies such as SANDAG. So that's one of the reasons that we backed away from the list of groups, is because we got so much feedback about how those we showed it to said, but where am I in the statement? So if we do want to include every group, I think you're going to see, do we include the constitutionally protected groups? Do we include, it gets very difficult to determine what's the best groups to add. Mayor Vasquez talked about having something on our website, which with the equity statement, we include all the impacted groups as well. That's one thing that we did think about as a group. So that's the reason why we went with draft number 2.
And I think just to add, a lot of people felt that the way it reads right now, this include historically and underserved, systemically marginalized, people could see themselves into that. But when you start listing it, you're going to be missing quite a bit. So I as your team, I recommend that, because like I think Mayor Terry Carr said, the most important thing is the action, Mr. Rodriguez said. And trust me, this action is going to be real, is going to be tangible. The statement is the statement. And I think Councilmember Marino and her group had a great input into this, simply because you can never have a perfect statement. I mean, we went so many hours trying to perfect it. It's not going to be perfect, but what we're going to be judged on is our actions. And like Councilmember Jack Shu said, our action means funding and economic justice that linked to transportation and land use in our world. So I would hope that the board move forward with this, knowing that we tried to reason for the draft 1 and we got a lot of comment to the contrary.
Okay, let's continue with the hands that are raised. So Cody Martinez.
Morning, Chair Blakespear and fellow board members of SANDAG. On behalf of the Southern California Tribal Chairmen's Association, we would welcome and support such an important statement, a very progressive statement by SANDAG on equality. I want to take the time to thank the board members that have mentioned tribes and the Native American communities here in San Diego and their comments that have been made this morning. I was a little late myself. I want to take the time to remind all of the board members that San Diego County has the most Indian reservations within the county line in the United States of America. We have 18 reservations governed by 17 sovereign tribal governments. And of course, we know the historic marginalization of the San Diego County tribes, and economic stability is something that, of course, representatives of my generation continue to try to support and endeavor for our Native communities. A lot of community representatives and members of the community seem to think tribal reservations and casinos go hand in hand. Saquon and many of us gaming tribes do all we can to continue to educate the public that first and foremost, tribes are tribal governments. 10 of us in the county do have gaming operations that are the economic cornerstones, but we definitely do not want that to be all we're thought of. And Saquon, amongst other tribes, does quite an effort to continue to educate the public in that matter. But we look forward to our great partnership with SANDAG and being a part of the conversation moving forward. So with that, Chair Blakespear, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yeah, Chair Blakespear, I appreciate your leadership in potentially moving this to further discussion or a subcommittee to come back. I would also consider, I would like to second Mayor Jones' alternative motion. You know, we don't want to leave, you know, individuals out. So I think we're going to go back and forth on this a little while, and maybe the best option, because this, you know, it appears policy and tangible work is going to be moved from this statement, that we get it right and not rush it. I think staff has done a phenomenal job getting us to this point, and we just need to do the final touches, and maybe that's best via subcommittee. Thank you.
Okay, we also, just so everybody knows, we do have 8 public speakers on this item, and we have several other agenda items. So we now I will call on Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we all know of the example of peanut butter. When we have a resource and we spread the peanut butter really, really thin, everybody gets some, but it's not a very good peanut butter jelly sandwich. I like, you know, a nice thick, you know, layer. And a statement like this can, if we have everybody included or listed, that goes beyond the historically underserved and marginalized groups, as Irene mentioned. I mean, it could be everybody under the sun. And again, not that every group is not deserving of that, you know, that recognition, but I think we have to be very purposeful in our mission to have this statement. And it is to work with those who have been historically marginalized, who have been excluded from the table, who have never been invited, and through this pandemic have been even more impacted or devastatingly impacted. And I think that it's extremely important that as we move forward, we recognize that, because we want, again, any inequity or discrimination is discrimination or is inappropriate. And we need to be, though, very purposeful, because we're talking in the lens of SANDAG. And when we talk about the lens of SANDAG, it's access to transportation and access to economic mobility. So that's why I support Councilmember Hsu and Mayor Gasserlin's point of the economic engine and the drivers and the funding being that priority. Because the secondary piece to having a statement like this is, when you have a statement, you not only want to say, look, this is, yay, we have this, we're going to move forward with this, but how are we measuring it? And we have to show the comparison of where we were before and how that potentially shapes our priorities going into the future. Again, we have our strategic plan. We know what we want to do, but it also brings up the ability to make things equal. And again, we had the conversation, the difference between equity and equality. And I think that we all need to be cognizant of that. When we have a statement, it's more of a game. How should I put it? Not so much a line by line that has to be, very much to the letter to have everybody included. But I really appreciate the fact that it was said historically underserved and marginalized groups. That was, for me, sufficient. But the addition of that funding and economic equity is extremely important to Councilmember Shu's point. And I would support, I don't know, Chair, if you need a motion to move forward to the subcommittee, or we just accept and file this statement as is and then send it back to the committee, because I'll ask you for guidance on that, because I'd like to move this item forward. If that's
let me call on everybody and then I'll come back to making a suggestion here. So let's go to Councilmember Vivian Moreno.
Councilmember Moreno, if you could press *6 on your phone, that'll allow you to speak.
Okay.
You'll have to turn your computer audio off, otherwise it'll echo.
Okay, I'm unmuted now, right?
We're
yes,
good.
we can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you for this opportunity to speak before the board. Transportation is a gateway to opportunity, education, and jobs. And I think that this new social equity statement is an excellent first step in centering equity in transportation planning in our region. In the past, transportation planners ignored the need and quality of life of low-income neighborhoods and people of color. Now, with this action, I think SANDAG demonstrates its commitment to inclusion and accessibility for people of color. And I'm honored to serve as the chair of the SANDAG Social Equity Working Group, which you all are welcome to attend. We had a robust conversation on this particular topic. And basically, the working group that convenes representatives from environmental justice communities from around our region to provide meaningful input on development of the 2021 regional plan. Now, on January 7th, the working group convened with two very important items on the agenda. The first one was to change our name from the Community-Based Organization Working Group to the Social Equity Working Group. And secondly, to discuss and consider the equity statement that is before you today. The name change was easy. I think it's something that the working group has been hoping to do since it assembled in 2017, and the vote was unanimous. Then Hassan and his team presented this equity statement to the working group for discussion. The comments from the working group were consistent, sincere gratitude and recognition that this is a new day at SANDAG, where voices from communities that have been marginalized, underrepresented, underserved are being given a real chance at access to opportunity. Now, I know that several of the working group members are here today to express support for this action before the board of directors. They are their own best advocates, and as chair of the working group, my goal is to amplify their voices. I agree with them that this equity statement is a great start, giving hope to the most vulnerable communities in our region that their voices will not be only heard, but that the regional plan will address their issues head on. While this is an important first step, let me add, in many ways, I think it's the easiest step. Things will be more challenged when SANDAG proposes to follow up this equity statement with the funds necessary to build projects that move us closer to social equity. And I look forward to seeing the equity framework from the regional plan come into focus in the coming months. I think this framework is going to really guide investment decisions in the regional plan to ensure that it lives up to the goals of our equity statement. And I think I don't want us to lose sight as to what we're doing here as a SANDAG board. And I would really urge the board to consider moving staff's recommendation. This was a document that we spent much time on, and it's just the first step. The real meat is going to come later. So I don't want us to get, I don't want us to stop our progress on this. And I would like to finally, I'd like to thank SANDAG staff, in particular Jane Clough, Colleen Clemenson, and our executive director, Hassan. We spent a lot of time on this, you guys, and this equity statement, I think, is a clear demonstration that SANDAG is committed to leaving the past behind and charting a new course for the future. I was honored and proud to be a part of this effort along with all of you. So thank you, and that concludes my comments.
Okay, so I just want to clarify where things are right now and what my thoughts are, and then we'll go to the public comments. And I see Jack Shu has his hand back up, but we had an original motion from Jack Shu that was seconded by Gasterland. And then we had a substitute motion, which we would vote on first, from Mayor Jones, seconded by Councilmember Rodriguez. And so if my hope is that an equity statement could be something that we could get basically not have a really messy divided vote about. And I think there were a lot of different comments that I heard, and I was jotting them down, about inclusion of Native Americans, military populations, inclusion of language around economic inequity, inclusion of the word fund, either broad or specific. And so to me, it seems like there's been a tremendous amount of work that's gone in, as Councilmember Moreno just said, and I really appreciate all that work. This is really important and lays out that foundation that's critical. But I do think it's also a recognition that this is the first time the board has seen it, and there was a desire to do wordsmithing from a number of different people. So I guess what we will need to vote on those motions, because the motions are owned by the body. But if the motion makers were willing to withdraw the motions and go to a subcommittee type of process where we could say, if you want to be involved in this, we're going to put a time limit on it. We need this back at the next council meeting or at the next SANDAG meeting, so that we're moving forward quickly and not losing time, but allow people to have more of a dialogue and more of an investment in it. I think, all of us have probably participated in these types of things where you're writing mission statements and vision statements for agencies. And when you start to wrestle with it, there are, of course, an infinite number of ways to do it. But this is the first time this board has heard it. And so to me, it seems like it's quite possible for us to reach a compromise that feels good to most people, a lot of people, without it having to be really divisive. So that would be my recommendation. I think I'll let everybody sit with that as a thought, and then go to the public speakers, and we'll come back to that and see where things are. Before we go to the public speakers, I'll circle back to Councilmember Shu.
Thank you, Chair Blakespear. My suggestion is that we hear the public comments right after I speak, and after that we vote on the substitute motion, which reminds me of whether you make a speech in which you try to say which of your children you love the most, or you try to name all your family members and fear that you left one of them out or a new one is born. So that's why I favored draft 2. But in any case, let's vote on the substitute motion, and then either we can vote on my motion with the suggested change, or I would withdraw it and suggest that you go to your suggestion of having a task force work on this and bring it back at the next meeting with the wordsmith done. But I hope that we do move ahead, and either we have a statement by the end of this meeting today, or certainly by the next SANDAG meeting. Thank you.
Okay, and just to be clear, so it's not up to us to decide which motion gets voted on first. So we follow Robert's rules and our bylaws, and you have to vote on substitute motions first, and then you vote on original motions. So that's just so everyone's clear. It's not, we don't just get to make these rules up on the fly here. Let's, with that, go to the public comments.
Thank you, Chair. Our first public speaker will be Noah Harris. Noah, if you could unmute yourself, you're ready to speak.
Good morning, Chair and Board. This is Noah Harris with Climate Action Campaign calling in support of SANDAG's commitment to equity statement. I want to begin by emphasizing that every San Diegan deserves access to high quality, sustainable transportation options, and today that does not exist. Our current fossil fueled transportation system continues to perpetuate decades of racial and economic injustice. Communities of color have been made to bear a disproportionate burden of the consequences of a system that has prioritized highways and cars, such as increased exposure to dangerous air quality and minimal access to fast and frequent service. Today's equity statement is only a first step and must be accompanied by meaningful action that prioritizes investments that will improve health and access to opportunity in historically underinvested communities. SANDAG has a real opportunity in the 2021 Regional Transportation Plan update to finally build a transportation system that works for all, that reliably, safely, and efficiently connects people to their basic needs, all while putting our region on the path to zero carbon. We know that the climate crisis has and will impact our communities of concern first and worst. With over half of our region's emissions coming from transportation, exceeding state mandated emissions reduction targets should be a top policy priority for our elected leaders. We urge the board to demonstrate a real commitment to equity by doing the hard work of reducing vehicle miles traveled, maximizing mode shifts towards sustainable travel options, and always centering the needs of community members first. Thank you.
Thank you, Noah. Next up is Erin Hodgman.
Hi, sorry, I actually would like to comment on item 16.
Thank you, Erin. We'll come back to you at that time. Next will be Pamela Hetherington.
Good morning, Board. Thank you for this opportunity to address you on this very critical item. We urge the Board to adopt a statement similar to Statement 1 of the Equity Statement for SANDAG. For too long, we have subsumed the marginalized groups under a blanket of darkness. It's time to say their names out loud and in writing. People of color, people with low incomes, people with disabilities, people from other countries and cultures, women, LGBTQ plus seniors, and other communities. Let's not continue marginalization by just lumping them all under a couple categories. I think with a little time and some subcommittee work, categories could be refined to be inclusive of everybody. Systemically marginalized could be open to interpretation. So I would just caution you to at least acknowledge those that have been left behind. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next is B. Mittermiller.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the new members of the board. My name is B. Mittermiller from San Diego 350. I'd like to speak in support of the proposed equity statement. With amendments that may be coming up, I hope that whatever is decided on will suit everybody on the board. However, today we are standing on the ancestral lands of the Kumeyaay people, the original native inhabitants of San Diego County. In order to respect the Kumeyaay elders, past and present, please take a moment to consider the legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that have affected Native Americans. Our county's history of injustice toward all people of color is disgraceful. Institutional racism needs to be acknowledged and confronted. Adopting the proposed equity statement and creating the criteria to measure SANDAG projects is absolutely necessary and justified. The historic lack of investment in infrastructure in Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities must be addressed in order to make up for the inequality that has been created by it. Transportation and land use policies that reinforce racial and economic inequality with projects that divide and isolate communities must end. Government's basic role should be to empower all Americans to thrive. SANDAG can and must do better. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next will be Craig Jones.
Yes, good morning and thank you. My name is Craig Jones. I am a member of the Community-Based Organization Working Group. Underscoring what Councilwoman Moreno has said, the importance of this issue is illustrated by the fact that our committee has voted to change our name from the Community-Based Organization or Working Group to the Social Equity Working Group. So we as a committee, as a working group, wholeheartedly support the idea of an equity statement, and we will be involved. We pledge to be involved in moving this forward with details too. We've already had discussions about a more detailed social equity working framework plan. So please do move forward on this. We appreciate the time and we appreciate the support for equity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Gretchen Newsom.
Thank you. Greetings and good morning. Gretchen Newsom on behalf of IBEW Local 569. It is wonderful to see and hear from the new board of SANDAG as we collectively embark on delivering a bold, transit-oriented, and prosperous future for our region. IBEW 569 has long advocated that the investment of public dollars should be done in a social and environmentally equitable manner to build a vibrant, inclusive economy that lifts up families, creates healthier communities, and addresses climate change. As such, we rise in favor of SANDAG adopting a commitment to equity statement today, with the inclusion of Councilmember Shu's addition of economic equity and funding. This commitment would enhance a bigger and better, more innovative vision that builds out mass transit in a way that strengthens our communities. Statement today, action tomorrow. Let's make equity a reality. Thank you for your consideration and support.
Thank you. Next is Goyo Ortiz. Goyo, I believe you're self-mute. Oh, there you go.
Hi. Good morning, members of the board, and thank you for the opportunity to address this item. My name is Goyo Ortiz. I am a community development choreographer here at Casa Familiar, a community-based organization working in the South Bay. I'm also a representative of the San Isidro community on SANDAG's CBO outreach team. So as a community next to the international border, San Isidro faces many challenges, including vehicular traffic congestion, underserved public transportation, and poor air quality, among other issues. We recognize the importance of this statement and what it means for the San Diego region. Casa Familiar welcomes the efforts of acknowledging a lack of inclusion of communities in concern and a renewed vision for equity in the collective future of our region. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Conan Martinez.
Yes, good morning. My name is Conani Martinez, and I'm a faculty researcher at the National Latino Research Center at Cal State San Marcos. The mission of our center is to promote scientific and applied research, training, and the exchange of information that contributes to the knowledge and understanding of U.S. Latino communities. The NLRC is part of SANDAG's community-based organization working group. Our center supports SANDAG's efforts in the area of diversity and the statement of commitment to institutionalizing equity into every level of its work. The NLRC recommends that the SANDAG commitment to diversity remain fluid and responsive to regional needs that serve to drive SANDAG's purposeful and equitable engagement in communities. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you. Next, we have Connor Franklin Ray.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Connor Franklin Ray. I use he, they pronouns. I'm a resident of La Mesa, and I'm representing Sunrise Movement San Diego, a youth climate justice organization, which is a proud member of the San Diego Green New Deal Alliance. I'm calling to support SANDAG's commitment. Being San Diego region's biggest primary public planning, transportation, and research agency, SANDAG should set the example by making equity the pillar around any current and future projects and endeavors. SANDAG must ensure that it centers the voices of communities of concern in all their projects, something that the governments of this region have historically failed to do, often deliberately through housing segregation and forced auto dependency, among many things, the effects of which communities of concern are still experiencing to this day. So I support this commitment as a crucial step in holding SANDAG accountable to connect with communities that most need access to robust transportation options run on clean energy. And I am looking forward to see this statement followed by action and funding. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next is Joel Kramer.
Good morning, board members. My name is Joel Kramer. I use he, him pronouns. I'm an SDSU city planning lecturer and a volunteer with the San Diego Green New Deal Alliance, where I'm a chair of the Building Equity Subcommittee of the JEDI Working Group. The Green New Deal Alliance is a coalition of 50 local organizations committed to ensuring that the region achieves zero carbon economy by 2035 while creating more equitable communities. And as the largest regional public planning, transportation, and research agency, SANDAG has an opportunity and a responsibility to make equity the pillar in the planning process. Our transportation system reflects how integrally our society is connected. It is essential to center the voices of communities of concern in all projects in order to design a transportation system that benefits our communities who use it the most. As my public administration students at the City of Carlsbad would attest to, following the guidance of communities of concern and prioritizing their needs in the planning process, in fact, benefits all of the users of our regional transportation system. Thank you very much for committing to equity in the planning process.
Thank you very much. And just so everyone knows, we have 3 additional public speakers, and after that, the comment period for this item will close. Next will be Bertha Rodriguez.
Good morning, Chair and Board. My name is Bertha Rodriguez. I'm an organizer for the San Diego Green New Deal Alliance, and I'm calling in support of SANDAG's commitment to equity statement. This is a great first step forward. Ensuring equity is at the center of your work. SANDAG must ensure that it centers the voices of communities of concern in all of the projects and connect with the communities that most need access to transportation options, especially those who have been historically marginalized and underinvested. And that includes meaningful outreach and dialogue led by community members as projects are developed. We need to see this be more than just a statement and see it in action. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Tara Hammond. Tara, I believe you're self-muted. If you'd like to unmute yourself, you can speak.
Thank you. Good morning, Honorable Chair Blake Spear and board members. My name is Tara Hammond with Hammond Climate Solutions. I'm glad to hear the conversation today about this important equity statement, which is a step in the right direction. Given SANDAG's authority and influence across the county, I believe SANDAG should set the example by making equity the pillar around any current and future projects. SANDAG must ensure that it centers the voices of communities of concern in all of its projects. I look forward to seeing meaningful action and investment from SANDAG, which supports equity in the near future. Thank you for your time, consideration, and leadership.
Thank you. And next is Brian Pollard.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Pollard. We are part of the CBOs that helped design this statement. I've been listening to what's going on, and I want to talk a little bit about the process that this motion has to continue to move. I understand there are questions. Hesitating, pausing on pushing this through can potentially send a wrong message to the communities that we are trying to help. My suggestion is dealing with the specifics can be dealt with concurrently and not linear as to the progression of this motion moving forward. So if there's some method that we can use to push this forward and continue the conversation about specificity that is inclusion into this, can probably ensure the confidence and trust that certainly has to be a driving factor in moving this forward. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you. And Chair Blakespear, that concludes the public comment period.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the luck from the last speaker. Okay, Mayor Jones, you have your hand up.
Yes, Chair Blakespear, thank you so much. So after Brian Pollard just spoke, I'm kind of not sure what to do because I do want to have a committee look at this. I just feel that the definitions of the marginalized groups is very important to this because I think generalized statements really make people feel left out. And that's honestly what we've done for so many years. I think we need to get this quickly done. And so I think if it's possible, and I'm not quite sure, can we get like a time frame how quickly this could get back from the committee, the subcommittee, to define these groups? I think definition is so important here. So I don't know, maybe SANDAG staff could help with that.
Yeah, maybe SANDAG staff could, if the two motion makers withdrew their motions and we were able to go to a subcommittee, could SANDAG staff weigh in and say, how quickly could we get this back? I think we don't want to lose any sort of momentum. And we hope that the work to operationalize this is happening while this statement is being hammered out. But could staff weigh in?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Chair Woman Blakespear. Thank you, Mayor Jones. I mean, look, I will follow whatever direction you give me, but my strong recommendation is you move this forward the way it is today. And the reason is not to minimize what Mayor Jones and others said about marginalized. We tried the route at Council Member Moreno's committee and other committees and several staff discussions here. You almost impossible to list everyone without leaving somebody.
But Executive Director, excuse me, I'd like to interrupt you and just ask you to answer the question, because I think we weren't really asking for your opinion on whether we should move this forward. But if you could have someone on staff, and maybe it's Irene or somebody who would run the subcommittee, if people who had opinions about this were willing to participate either on a Zoom or to try to hash this out, maybe we could just get the timeline, because that's, I think, the question we have here.
The timeline, obviously, creating a subcommittee and going through the debate is going to take time, and I don't think you should delay that. That's my 2 cents in. You can do whatever you want, Mayor Blakespear.
Okay, well, I guess I'll weigh in. Is there anyone else on staff who wants to weigh in on the timeline? Because I would be willing to commit to getting this on our next agenda. So we would do it within this 2 week, we meet every other week. So there's Irene. Yes, Irene?
Hi, yeah, I'm committed to doing anything as quickly as possible. I know establishing a subcommittee can take some time here, but I think we can work through it as quickly as possible. And I'm happy to be part of that subcommittee and help lead the conversations for everybody. Just based on how much work went into it before, I think, these 2 or 3 conversations are going to have to be had. So if a subcommittee is willing to move that quickly, I think we could probably have it done by the second meeting in February, perhaps. I mean, that's pushing staff really hard, just so you know.
Okay, thank you for weighing in on that. I see that Councilmember Shu's hand is up.
Thank you. I suggest we move on the substitute motion now. They'll direct us on whether we have a longer version or shorter version, draft 1 or 2. And then we go ahead and vote on my motion with the suggested change. And I'll make some comments on the suggested changes depending on how we go with the substitute motion now. I think we can act on it well and get this done at this meeting, I want to recognize the work that's already been done by so many people already. So maybe we can respect them by moving on these two motions now.
Okay, so I guess what it comes to then is Mayor Jones, do you want to continue with your motion and have us vote on that because it's your motion, or do you want to withdraw it?
Well, I would like to withdraw it, sending it back to a subcommittee so that we have further information. If we could do that by the end of February, that's not too far from now. That's 30 days. I don't think that, you know, leaving anyone out should be a priority. I think making sure that we're engaged and we have as many people involved in this as possible. I think that would be important. I don't want anyone to feel left out and marginalized. So I think I would withdraw my motion, sending it back to a subcommittee but defining those different groups, I think, is really important. So
okay, so if you withdraw your motion, then I'll make a substitute motion that we create the subcommittee. And I'll just say that I think this question, which people have expressed strong opinions on this board with their comments about whether to include groups, specifically call them out, or to summarize it like it says in Working Draft 2 as historically underserved and systemically marginalized. So the summation or calling it out, in addition to these other questions about the wordsmithing of the word fund or the after prioritize and that kind of stuff, to me it shows that there's still a pretty high engagement from board members that could benefit from the process of working through it a little bit. Even if we end up with a divided vote later, to me it seems important that that this dialogue happen at the board level, which is why I am going to make that motion that as a substitute motion after her withdrawn one, that we create the subcommittee and then get it back to the board as soon as possible. And I do see two hands up. I see you, Mayor Hall, but first we had Councilmember Rodriguez. So I'm going to call on him.
I would like to second your motion contingent upon the mayor's withdrawal of our original motion. I think that this has been, having an equity statement has been neglected for far too long, for far too many years, and we shouldn't rush it. And we want to make sure that we include everyone. I think that's the wisest thing to do. And so I'd like to second your motion, Mayor Blakespear.
Okay, and just to be clear, my motion is not that we are including everyone. So the motion is that this discussion can happen at a subcommittee level so that people can work through this and that good discussion can be fuller. So it's that we go to the subcommittee instead of basically as the next step here, and then we get it back as soon as possible, but no later than that timeline that Irene laid out. So I just want to be clear on what you're seconding.
Yep, I'm very clear on that. Yep.
Okay, Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With the comments that are being made, I feel that it's really important to move forward on this item, supporting that we approve one of them today. I know that we want to have, I think the second part is going to the committee, having that discussion, because we will be the first in the state to have an equity statement as part of our guidelines. And I think if we push it off even one more month, there's too much potential with, I think, elimination. And so if we're able to do and approve one or the other, and then as the secondary piece, go to the committee, wordsmith those tiny things, then we can, be more finite and laser. It doesn't change our commitment. And I think that for me is something that we should do today. So we can say, this is what we believe in. Now, semantics, whether we list them, not list them, doesn't change what our goals are. And so I think, I don't know that I can support the substitute motion if we don't move forward with accepting at least one of these two statements, because then we're just delaying. And as we've said, this has been delayed way too long. and it's now. We need to do now, and then we pivot and edit what we, whether or not we want to list them. So my thoughts, I appreciate the opportunity.
This is Serge Dedine. I would second that. We need to move forward on this. We waited way too long.
Okay, let me call on Mayor Hall because he has had his hand up for a while.
I would like to call for the question on your motion, Ms. Blakespear.
Okay, let's go ahead then. I don't see any other hands up. So let's go ahead and vote.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I need to interject with a point of order. Once that motion, Mayor Jones's motion was made and seconded, at that point, that motion belongs to the floor, not to Mayor Jones to withdraw. And so there's two ways that can happen. If there's unanimous consent and no one opposes the withdrawing of the motion and not moving forward, that's fine. But in the absence of that, that motion still needs to be disposed of before another substitute motion could be entertained. And again, I apologize for interjecting with that.
Okay, so what you're saying is that we need to vote on Mayor Jones's motion.
Yes, or to vote to allow her to withdraw it. One of those two.
Can we clarify Chair, what her motion was in its entirety? Or can they put it up on the screen for us?
Yes, that's a good idea. Let's put it up on the screen to see what her motion is. Okay, well, what are the proposed revisions? We need to see those.
Chair, I don't think we were able to capture all the revisions as they were stated. So if Mayor Jones could repeat them, that would be appreciated.
I think the revisions that I think Mr. Councilmember Shu spoke about, that's adding the word economic and adding the word fund.
That was in the second draft.
Right.
Yes, my motion actually added our Native Americans and our military populations. But again, I am withdrawing my motion. So if we could vote on withdrawing my motion to allow a subcommittee so that we are able to capture all of the different marginalized groups, that's what I'm asking for today. Thank you.
I'd like to just call on our vice chair to have any thoughts or suggestions on this. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I appreciate the question, Madam Chair. And I understand our legal counsel keeping us legit on what to do with the multiple motions that are forward. My recommendation would be to take Mayor Jones up on withdrawing her motion, however is the best way to do that. And then I would argue for supporting our chair. As many people have mentioned, this has been a long time coming. As I mentioned, I couldn't even imagine a day where SANDAG's doing this. I don't interpret the chair's substitute motion as being about delay. It's about signaling that we're going to get this done. Ms. McCormick is fantastic at what she does. She's made a commitment to bring this back in February. So with all respect to everyone who's participated, let's get this done right, because what we're doing, and I'm surprised by this, everyone is saying that we need to have this. I suspected, candidly, that there might be a few board members that did not want to do this. So everyone's in agreement. Let's take a little bit of extra time to get it done correctly. And I ask folks to support our chair. Let's revisit this at our next meeting and get something that everyone can feel good about.
Okay, thank you for your comments. So let's go ahead and vote as the attorney said on the withdrawal of the motion. Is that what we need to do, attorney, or do we just, is that what you say we need to do? Yes.
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, let's do that. And then we'll go to the next substitute motion.
Thank you. For the City of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
Fed, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
Bailey, yes.
Thank you. For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of Del Mar, Mayor Gasterland.
Gasterland, yes.
Thank you. For the City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Blakespear, yes.
Thank you. For the city of Escondido, Mayor McNamara.
McNamara, yes.
Thank you. For the city of Imperial Beach, Mayor Dedina.
Dedina, yes.
Thank you. For the city of La Mesa, Councilmember Shu.
La Mesa, yes.
Thank you. For the city of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, yes.
Thank you. For the city of National City, Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
Thank you. For the city of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yes.
Thank you. For the city of Poway, Mayor Voss.
Mayor Voss had to leave.
Thank you. I'll mark city of Poway absent. For the city of San Diego, Mayor Gloria.
San Diego, aye.
Thank you. For the city of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, yes.
Thank you. For the city of Santee, Mayor Minto.
Minto, yes.
Thank you. For the city of Solana Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Hebner, yes.
Thank you. And for the city of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
Thank you. And that does pass with those members present.
Okay, thank you. I understand that this has created, there's a lot of complexity here that we didn't expect on this, but here we are. So I'll make that substitute motion that we do create a subcommittee of board members to wrestle with the language and in an expedited way, bring that right back to the board.
And
I'll second that motion.
Councilmember Rodriguez seconded that.
Okay.
Thank you.
So
Thank you. I have the motion by Chair Blakespear and the second by Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes.
Thank you. For the city of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
Carlsbad, yes.
Thank you. For the city of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Salas, yes.
Thank you. For the city of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
Bailey, yes.
Thank you. For the county of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Yes.
Thank you. For the county of San Diego, oh, I'm sorry, for the city of Del Mar, Mayor Gasterland.
The county of Del Mar, yes.
Sorry about that. For the city of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
Yes.
Thank you. For the city of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Blakespear, yes.
Thank you. For the city of Escondido, Mayor McNamara.
McNamara, yes.
For the city of Imperial Beach, Mayor Dedina.
Dedina, yes.
Thank you. For the city of La Mesa, Councilmember Shu.
La Mesa, no.
Thank you. For the city of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, yes.
Thank you. For the city of National City, Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye, with an expedited timeline.
Thank you. For the city of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yes, for a subcommittee.
Thank you. The city of Poway is absent. For the city of San Diego, Mayor Gloria.
Aye.
Thank you. For the city of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, yes.
Thank you. For the city of Santee, Mayor Minto.
Minto, yes.
Thank you. For the city of Solana Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Hebner, yes.
Thank you. And for the city of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
Thank you very much. That motion does pass with 17 yeses.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to the board for working to resolve this in the way that makes sense and hopefully can lead to a statement that we all feel really good about. So I really appreciate the board's engagement on this and support. So let's now move to the next item.
Mayor, who's the subcommittee?
Oh, that's what, thank you. That was in my mind. Yes. I mean, I might suggest that you immediately send an email to Francesca if you want to be on the subcommittee. Francesca is our clerk. Is that a process that would work, or because I know we're so behind schedule right now, we need to move on the agenda, but what would staff suggest?
First of all, your action is to create a subcommittee and to come back to you next board meeting. To do that, we have to have a subcommittee and meet next week. And then so we can mail the agenda out for the next meeting. So I would hope that we'll give by Monday, who are interested, to let Francesca know so we can contact them for the next meeting.
Okay, let's move the timeline up and say like by the end of the day. Let her know, because we're all on this meeting here, so we can do that, immediately.
We'll send, just let Francesca know, and we'll make sure we get you the possible meeting date next week so we can get it to you by Friday of next week, mailed out.
Okay, great. Mayor Gasterland.
I just have a quick question about subcommittees. How big are they? And is it anybody who volunteers up to just below quorum?
It will be a Brown Act subcommittee. I'm assuming many, but you can, the whole board could participate. I mean, I think there's no limit in the numbers.
Okay, great. So let's move forward here. We are on item 15. So this
Mayor,
is.
can I make one point on that again? I apologize.
Yeah.
Recognizing the unclarity of this, if you make this a Brown Act subcommittee, that's great, but recognize that you'll need those 72 hours noticing. This might be the type of thing that can be the proper subject for an ad hoc subcommittee that is less than a quorum of the board, that would allow you to move quicker, but would not be subject to the Brown Act.
I think we should do the move quicker ad hoc subcommittee. So let's do that. Okay. So our next item, let me get back to the agenda here, is item 15. So this is informational, and I will call on Elaine to present.
Chair Blakespear, I think we're going to continue this item to a future meeting, if that's okay with you, and move on to number 16.
Okay, that's fine. Item 16 is bridging the digital divide, and this is Antoinette.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, all. Welcome, new board members. My name is Antoinette Meyer, and I am your Director of Mobility and Innovation at SANDAG. Today, I'm going to be talking about the digital divide, which is a topic that has gotten a lot of attention over the last year. Although it's a longstanding issue, the pandemic has brought to light the very serious impacts on unconnected and underconnected residents in our region. You might be asking yourself, what does the digital divide have to do with regional planning? And the answer is actually quite a lot. Broadband connectivity touches on so many areas that are important to our region: economic development, public health and safety, education, social equity, sustainability, and mobility. For this reason, policymakers at all levels of government have really been scrambling to get everyone online during the pandemic. And today I'm going to share some of the key activities that have been occurring at the state level and in our own region, specifically our work to establish a digital divide task force and develop a regional digital equity strategy and action plan. Next slide. You are probably already familiar with the term, the digital divide, but for the purposes of the presentation today, we are talking about the gap between the members of society who do not have access to reliable broadband service, and that's primarily our rural and tribal communities and low-income households, and those who do. Next slide. At the most basic level, broadband is a high-speed internet connection that is provided via a variety of wired and wireless networks. Next slide. High speed is a really important part of the definition. Not all internet connections are technically broadband. The Federal Communication Commission, which is the agency that regulates communications, defines a broadband connection as one with a minimum download speed of 25 megabits per second and a minimum upload speed of 3 megabits per second. So in theory, at these speeds, you should be able to stream a video in your household while a couple of other people are doing things online without experiencing buffering. But most would argue that these speeds are not adequate, particularly in today's environment where we are all at home together, online, doing school, work, learning, shopping, and socializing. The FCC map here on the slide shows the areas in the region that meet this speed threshold in yellow and those that don't in blue. So you'll see that our rural communities are at a major disadvantage, and we have pockets of areas in our urban communities as well that don't meet the threshold. Next slide. There are multiple methods for accessing the internet. The graphic on this slide helps to illustrate the very complicated broadband landscape, which in many ways is like a transportation network. And I don't have time to talk through all of these technologies today, but I do want to point out that like public transit, the major focus with broadband access and the digital divide is on the lack of a last mile connection that brings broadband to the home. And this is particularly an issue in rural communities. Next slide. I think we would all agree that broadband has become critical to our lives. While our dependence on the internet has definitely grown rapidly over the recent years, the pandemic has made it an essential utility. Distance learning, telehealth, work, civic and social engagements, and accessing services all require a reliable internet connection, and residents without connectivity are at a major disadvantage. Next slide. And while maybe not as obvious, closing the digital divide is also critical to the future of transportation and the ability to fully benefit from the technology advancements that bring the regional vision for the 5 big moves to life. Broadband is also a green technology. I think we've all seen during the pandemic how working from home and other remote access options have the potential to reduce car travel and the associated greenhouse gas emissions. It also provides local jurisdictions with the infrastructure needed to advance smart city initiatives that can make municipal operations and services much more sustainable and efficient. Next slide. So what does the digital divide look like in our state and in the region? In California, millions of residents and households lack broadband access or don't have a broadband subscription at home. Next slide. In our region, a much higher portion of low-income households lack broadband subscriptions. Up to 40% of students in some of our school districts are underconnected, or they lack a device or home internet access, which makes it very difficult for them to participate in distance learning. In our rural communities, less than half of the population have fixed broadband versus 97% of people who live in urban areas. Next slide. So in August of last year, Governor Newsom signed an executive order to bridge the digital divide. The order directs state agencies to pursue a statewide goal of 100 megabits per second download speeds, and it required the development of a state broadband action plan, which was actually released at the end of December, and I provided a link to the plan in your staff report. The executive order outlines actions across state agencies to accelerate mapping and data collection so we can better identify where broadband gaps exist. This is a major challenge today because the level of data needed is not available. It also directs agencies to develop funding programs and other strategies for the rapid deployment and adoption of high-speed internet. With regards to transportation, the executive order directs the state transportation agencies to incorporate the installation of fiber conduit to all feasible transportation projects and to coordinate with internet service providers to expand their fiber network and their service areas. In addition to the executive order, there's 2 bills in legislature right now that address broadband and the digital divide. So this is really becoming an important policy discussion at the state level. Next slide. The ultimate goal is to create digital equity across the state. And when we talk about digital equity, we're talking about both expanding affordable access to broadband and also ensuring that everyone can subscribe to broadband service and has access to a device to connect to the internet and then knows how to use the internet. Next slide. There's a lot happening in our region to address both the immediate crisis and to plan for digital equity longer term. This slide highlights some of those recent activities. The City of San Diego and the nonprofit organization San Diego Future Foundations have supported thousands of households with devices during the pandemic. The city is also providing safe places for students to access computers and Wi-Fi. The City of Chula Vista is really a leader in this area. They adopted a digital equity and inclusion plan last year, and the county and the San Diego Foundation have been providing funding to school districts to make sure that all students can get online. This is not an exhaustive list by any means. The private sector has also stepped up to provide support during this time of need. But I think what this demonstrates is that there's a lot happening in the region that could benefit from coordination. Next slide. SANDAG is also involved with a number of efforts to expand broadband infrastructure. So several years ago, we entered into an interagency agreement with MTS and CTD and Caltrans to share fiber and create redundancy that enhances network reliability for transportation. More recently, SANDAG, Caltrans, and a company called Media3 are entering into a mutually beneficial fiber sharing agreement that will expand broadband in the South Bay. So this is an example of a public-private partnership. SANDAG is also starting to proactively incorporate broadband into transportation plans and corridor studies. The state's broadband consortiums identified transportation projects as an obstacle to broadband deployment because it's too often an afterthought and it's too late for internet service providers to gain access to construction projects to install fiber. So if we're proactively incorporating broadband into plans and projects, we can be part of the solution. We also joined forces with the SCAG region in a coalition of Southern California public and private sector leaders that came together during the pandemic to create a framework for streamlining the deployment of broadband infrastructure that better prepares us for future emergencies. A major focus of this collaboration has been on creating consistency with broadband policies and permitting practices across jurisdictions. We also worked to develop a draft model broadband resolution for local and regional agencies to adopt. Adopting a resolution helps to demonstrate commitment to bridging the digital divide, and it positions us to be able to take advantage of funding opportunities and partnership opportunities. Multiple jurisdictions in the SCAG region adopted the resolution, and today I'm asking this board to adopt the resolution, which was provided as attachment 2 to your staff report. I'm also incredibly honored to be joined today by a member of our coalition, former Secretary of the California Business, Transportation, and Housing Agency, Secretary Sunny Wright McPeak. Secretary McPeak oversaw the largest state agency for 3 years under Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, and now she is a leader in advocating for broadband access and adoption as the president and CEO of the California Emerging Technology Fund. This is a statewide organization whose mission is to close the digital divide by accelerating the deployment and adoption of broadband. Sunny's been supporting the work of our Southern California Coalition, and I'd like to just hand it over to her for a few minutes to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Antoinette. Let me just check to make sure you can hear me.
Yes.
Thank you, Hassan. Chair Mayor Blake Spear and Vice Chair Mayor Gloria and members of the SANDAG board, what a pleasure it is to join you again. I had many great opportunities to learn from SANDAG when I was Secretary of Business, Transportation, and Housing. You were always on the cutting edge. As our nation turns a page of history this week, this is an opportunity for SANDAG to write another chapter. So all of the work that I had the opportunity to be a part of working for the state of California in linking transportation to housing, to environmental protection, and focusing on mobility, that now has carried forward in the work of the California Emerging Technology Fund, who has a mission assigned to this nonprofit statewide organization, the mission assigned by the California Public Utilities Commission to close the digital divide in California. To be sure, I think it's important I share with you our perspective that the digital divide is just another manifestation of the economic divide and the opportunity divide. I really appreciated the opportunity to listen to all of your robust debate about equity. We talk about the need to not just recognize the digital divide, but in this time of the pandemic, and when Mayor Sotelo Solis talked about the pandemic, I just want to say it exposed not just a digital divide, but a digital cliff, with people falling off into deeper poverty, greater isolation, and really presenting to us a sense of urgency to do everything possible to deploy high-speed internet infrastructure to all residents. So this conversation about broadband, following on your discussion about equity for San Diego region, is entirely appropriate and poetic. Today, what we at the California Emerging Technology Fund are attempting to do is actually accelerate action, but that action will build upon the leadership of all of you locally. It's been my opportunity to work with you, Mayor Gloria, as a member of the legislature. You were very patient in listening to us when we would come to you and talk about closing the digital divide. Now everything converges around getting folks to be able to participate in a digital economy. It is truly a manifestation and compelling reason to pursue equity in San Diego. more importantly, probably, is everything that SANDAG oversees, from transportation, allocation of dollars, to linking that to housing, to looking at land use. Those are the convergence of efforts that make you in the leadership position around helping deploy broadband with the actions being proposed here today by your board. You know, I want to hasten to say, I actually want to congratulate you for recruiting Hassan Hakrada away from SCAG. My goodness, what a great coup. I also have had the pleasure of working with Antoinette and Jack, and your team has been fantastic, stepping up. And again, I'm absolutely confident that with your actions, SANDAG is going to show us the way in California. So I'm here to support that. I do want to underscore something that I heard in your debate earlier. So Mayor Rodriguez from Oceanside, you talked about 50% of your population being disadvantaged. Mayor Jones, you talked about 40% of your population being disadvantaged. You know, Mayor or Council Member Moreno, you talked about social equity. Well, when I was Secretary of Business, Transportation, and Housing, I can remember in San Diego before the California Transportation Commission bringing a recommendation that broadband be embraced as a green strategy for transportation mobility. CTC did in fact adopt it, but there has been little action to embrace that whole concept until recently. And so I commend to you this action that is before you today, and am here as an ally and a partner and a cheerleader for you to help support implementation of the resolution. I want to close with saying infrastructure is necessary but not sufficient. And so the strategies that go with getting the infrastructure built to get people connected will also require your leadership, your action in each county or each city, all 18 cities, the county, to promote the use of broadband and getting information to all of your residents about affordable offers. Cox has been very good in the region. There are other providers who can provide affordable offers. And that is our ultimate goal, is to get people connected so we achieve digital equity in the name and honor of your resolution for equity.
Thank you, Secretary McPeak. I really appreciate your support. Could we get the PowerPoint presentation back up, please?
You know, you're welcome. And I want to do a shout out to the San Diego Futures Foundation. You had mentioned them as a participant, and San Diego Futures Foundation was our partner going back to 2009. So we were able to invest in San Diego Futures Foundation, and Gary Knight continues to do a great job. So we're going to call upon them more. That's what I'm doing here. When I do a shout out, it means you have more to do, folks. So Gary gets to join us in stepping up all this effort.
We are lucky to have Gary on our Digital Divide Task Force, actually. So with that, I know we're running out of time, so we're going to go ahead and move forward with the request today. I'd like to ask the board to adopt resolution number 2021-09, supporting increased broadband access to bridge the digital divide throughout the San Diego region. The board is also asked to encourage member agencies to adopt similar resolutions within your jurisdictions, and a sample has been provided to you for your convenience. So
Okay,
with
thank
that, I'm happy to take questions. I also have some of our agency technical experts with me if you have any specific questions on the technology or fiber sharing agreements that we have in place. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And we have Mayor Salas who has her hand up.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair Blakespear. Thank you, Antoinette, for this really important report. And I just wanted to let the board know that the City of Chula Vista has been working with the staff of SANDAG in order to develop a digital equity plan, and that the City of Chula Vista adopted our digital equity plan almost a year and a half ago. And we really understood, because of the population of the City of Chula Vista, which has a lower income population on our west side that is not connected. We worked with our school district at the onset of the pandemic, and we actually purchased and delivered to the Chula Vista Elementary School District 2,000 hotspots and devices for them to identify those students that were in need of access to the internet. So it's something that I encourage all our member cities to really delve into, as was stated in this report. We are all becoming more and more dependent on digital access, and it is a matter of social equity. So I fully support the recommendation. I would like to make the motion when that's appropriate.
Okay, great. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Terry Gasterland. I second.
Okay. Well, thank you for the great presentation and our excellent guest speaker. We appreciate having you today. So let's go ahead and public comment on this.
Yes, Chair, we do have two public speakers waiting. The first is Jeremy Ogle. Jeremy, you can go ahead and speak if you're ready.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
I actually did not intend to raise my hand, so thank you for calling on me.
No problem at all. We'll move on then to Erin Hodgeboom.
Yes, I'm here.
You can go ahead with your comments if you're ready.
Okay. Dear Chair Mayor Blake Spear, Vice Chair Mayor Gloria, and members of the board, thank you so much for hosting such an important conversation this morning. To the staff for putting together this comprehensive report, to Ms. Wright McPeak for comments, and for allowing those of us who have been working in this space either for decades or since COVID first hit us to share our input. My name is Erin Hogaboom, and I'm Director of San Diego for Every Child. We are a countywide initiative dedicated to cutting the experience of child poverty across our region. Only through working with public and legislatures to advocate for more money in the pockets of families, but also through looking at systems and policies across healthcare, childcare, housing, and hunger relief to identify opportunities for efficiencies and collaboration, all in the spirit of ensuring that we have a great place to grow up for every child, not just some. At this point in our modern history, there is perhaps no more cross-cutting issue which connects all of these fields than the inability to reliably and knowledgeably and comfortably access information, resources, and life-saving services online. The issue of the digital divide is not a new one, and in fact, more and more research is coming out on how it mirrors the immoral and disgraceful practices of housing redlining from our not-so-distant past. So perhaps it's because of such a persistent problem, or that it's now undeniably clear just how much the absence of equitable access to the digital infrastructure negatively impacts families, from distance learning to COVID relief, that the time now to take bold moves and towards a fully connected community. So since May, we have been co-leading the Equitable Distance Learning Task Force with Classrooms of the Future Foundation in August, the report Beyond the Hotspot, highlighting not only the importance of supporting the human aspects of digital connectivity, things like working with CBOs on linguistically and culturally competent digital literacy, but also the unrelenting need for more broadly accessible municipal Wi-Fi networks and ultimately a wired connection in every home. As history shows us, simple market forces will not move us toward that reality. It is going to take intentional, equitable, technical, and community-informed policies crafted by brave and committed municipal leadership to move us along the pathway of what our children and future generations demand of us now. So on behalf of the Learning Task Force and families currently sitting in library or fast food parking lots, helping their kids with their online homework, we ask that you adopt resolution number 2021-09 and to support the increase of broadband access throughout the San Diego region. And we ask that it not end at this meeting, but that you also carry that same commitment and resolve to your individual jurisdictions as well. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and for your consideration.
Thank you. Next is Kirby Brady.
Good morning, Chair Blake Spear and members of the board. My name is Kirby Brady, and I'm the Chief Innovation Officer for the City of San Diego. Thank you for the opportunity this morning to speak in favor of the adoption of this resolution to help bridge the regional's digital divide. I'm calling in today to thank you for this important first step in creating a regional coalition to address one of the San Diego region's most pressing problems. As each of you is aware, the growth of the digital divide has accelerated and been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Reliable access to broadband is a fundamental underpinning of a successful economy, Without it, our most vulnerable populations are at risk of becoming part of a permanent digital underclass, effectively cut off from the economic and educational opportunities. In addition to being a major barrier to social mobility and the long-term economic prosperity of our region, this widening disparity in internet access will also negatively impact our region's ability to achieve our climate action goals. Let's make sure we emerge from this pandemic stronger than ever, and we're at our absolute best when we work together. I'd like to thank staff for putting forth this resolution so we can begin to think about this as a regional priority. The City of San Diego looks forward to participating in the Regional Digital Divide Task Force. Thank you this morning for your consideration, and we look forward to continuing to collaborate as a regional partner on this issue.
Thank you. And this will be our last public speaker, Nishal Mohan.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Nishal Mohan. I'm the founder and executive director of MoHuman, which is at the forefront of a growing movement to ensure that children and families in low-income communities have the digital resources that they need to thrive and realize their full potential in their communities. We really work with communities themselves and not just communities at practice to drive the transfer of power and resources to those people and their communities for school, work, health, and government engagement. I'm really excited to see this task force put together. We work in the San Diego Promise Zone and across promise zones across the United States to bring digital equity to students and families. My comment here is about making sure that we're not only working and building this plan with communities of practice, but that we actually have local community leaders and the people's voice in this, because it's the problems that they're experiencing and it's solutions for them. So I just want to make sure that we keep that in mind throughout this. They're suffering and they need to be a part of it. We have to work with the community and not at it. And I'm excited to be a part of this as well and help to guide in any way that I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. That's all of our speakers.
Okay, thank you. So before we vote, I just want to again say thank you to Ms. Wright McPeak. The fact that you would take the time to be part of this discussion underscores the importance of this item and the need to address the digital divide. So if we don't have any other comments, we'll go ahead and vote.
Thank you. For the City of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
Carlsbad, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Salas, aye.
Thank you. For the City of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
Bailey, yes.
Thank you. For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of Del Mar, Mayor Gasterland.
For so many reasons, so well stated, yes, for Del Mar.
Thank you. For the City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Blakespear, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Escondido, Mayor McNamara.
McNamara, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Imperial Beach, Mayor Dedina.
Dina, yes.
Thank you. For the City of La Mesa, Councilmember Shu.
La Mesa, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, yes.
Thank you. For the City of National City, Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
Thank you. For the City of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yes.
Thank you. The City of Poway is absent. For the City of San Diego, Mayor Gloria.
San Diego, aye.
Thank you. For the City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Santee, Mayor Minto.
Minto, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Solana Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Ebner, yes.
Thank you. And for the City of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
Thank you very much. And that does pass with those members present.
Okay, thank you. So we are going to be bumping our closed session, but we do have another board item that we're going to get to today. It's item 17. So I will hand it over to staff for that item.
Thank you, Chair Blake Spear, and good morning, members of the board. I have been told that this is a 15-minute item, but to narrow it down to 2 minutes, which is fine, because we will be back in 2 weeks with the full group to talk about the item, but I'll give you the 2-minute version today. So we can go to the next slide. So this is basically the bond team that we assembled to the 2021 bond financing team, which will include PFM, our financial advisors, our bond counsel, ORIC, and our disclosure counsel, Norton Rose, and our co-senior managers this time, which will be Wells Fargo and Bank of America, which we do have representatives on the call here today. Next slide. Next slide. So why we need to issue these bonds is what we're going to look at today, as well as the potential size and structure, the credit ratings, the bond documents, and the calendar of events. Next slide. So I think Hassan mentioned it earlier, why we are issuing these bonds. We had come to the board back in November and said that there's a potential shortfall. So this is one of the items that we came together with our financial advisors at PFM to potentially take care of some of these shortfalls. And the first item here is a refinancing of the existing bonds to lower borrowing costs. The next slide. And so as we mentioned earlier today, we did close on our TIFIA loan just last week, and we reduced the rate from the 2.72% to 1.75, saving us approximately $123 million. And so these items 2 and 3 will continue those savings. One is to advance refund approximately $150 million in 2014 bonds, and the second is to issue new bonds of approximately $85 million. Next slide, please. So the credit ratings, we've already submitted them to the rating agencies. We had to do that when we submitted the TIFIA loan, and we're fairly confident that even with the new issuance, we'll be able to maintain our AAA ratings that we have with both S&P and Fitch, and then our very strong ratings on our subordinate lien, which is a AA. Next slide. And so there's 2 series of bonds that we're going to be issuing with the 2021 series. The first one is, like I mentioned, approximately $150 million, which we anticipate saving $20 million on this. And then the second one is the actually issuing new money of $85 million, which should potentially give us about $113 million of new funds. Next slide. So again, although I have our financial advisors and our bond counsel and disclosure counsel, we won't get into any of the documents today, but we will in 2 weeks. We'll go through each one of these and describe what they are, and there's certain board responsibilities for each of these documents. So we'll spend more time when we get here in 2 weeks. Next slide. So again, just the next steps is that we'll be expecting our final ratings from the rating agencies the first week in February. We'll go to the Transportation Committee to review these bond documents, ask them for a recommendation for approval. We'll come back to you in 2 weeks, and if we get the final approval from you, we'll post a preliminary official statement. The week of March 8th, we will price these bonds, with hopefully close by March 22nd. So Chair Blakespeare, this is the first part of the presentation. I can get into 17B, or if you'd like, I just pause for a moment for any questions.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any hands raised, so we can move to 17B.
Great, thank you. So next slide, please. So as was the other presentation 17A, that was for our long-term bonds, refinancing those. This is basically doing the same thing on our short-term notes that we have, the 2021 series. So next slide, please. Again, we have assembled a financial team to help us with this transaction. And in this particular case, Citi will be leading the underwriting group. PFM is our financial advisors, and in this particular case, our bond and disclosure counsel is both Norton Rose. Next slide. Again, I won't go through this, but basically how I went through the first 17A, it's the why we're going to refund these, the size of credit ratings, the note documents in the calendar. So next slide. Again, this was one of the strategies to take advantage of where rates are today and refinance the 2021 bands. Next slide. Again, it's just rolling for an additional 18 months, taking advantage of the low borrowing rates today, and as opposed to issuing or taking down the TIFIA loan today, pushing that out 18 months and using short-term borrowing funds at 50 basis points versus the TIFIA, although it's really low at 1.75%. By doing this, by rolling for another 18 months, we'll save approximately $10 million. Next slide. And again, this will be on our subordinate lien. It's a very strong AA. Next slide. And as I just mentioned, this will be a tax exempt subordinate lien with a $10 million savings. Next slide. And we will go through each of the documents that we get together in 2 weeks. Next slide. And again, very similar timeline that I just described in the 17A item. So with that, Chair Blakespeare, I'll take a pause and see if there's any questions. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for your good, diligent work here. Let me see if there are any questions. I don't see any hands raised. So let's see, is this an action item or information only?
This is informational only. The next time that we come back to you, we'll be looking for some action. Thank you.
Okay, well, great. Well, thank you very much. We will be back to that item soon. And now we're on to the last one, which is a continued public comments. Do we have those?
No, Chair, I don't see any hands.
Okay. So we try very hard to end on time here because we end up losing board members to other commitments when we go over. So I know there were several things that we did not get to, and I'm sure there are people who are disappointed by that, but I'm sorry about that, and we will get to it at the next meeting. So that is it. We are, let's see, let me just see when our next meeting is. Okay, our next meeting is February 12th at 9 a.m. And with that, we are adjourned.